The Butt Kicker Gamer 2. What you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
We've had a break, and it's been so long since we last saw Precision Racing League action on RaceSpotTV. It feels like we haven't seen him since last year. Ha! Ha! Are you done laughing now? The stars and cars of the PRL GT3 Fixed Series, GT3 Sprint Series are back, and it's time to spar at Spa for the first time in 2023. Welcome to Belgium, and welcome to round 3 of the PRL GT3 Fixed and GT3 Sprint Series, live from the virtual circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. Hi everybody, Joey Tevin here alongside David Haynes with our producer Hugo Luis behind the scenes. David, welcome to 2023. Tuesday night for me, Wednesday afternoon to you. Welcome to the virtual Spa.
Yeah, I would have been about 15 hours earlier than you into 2023, but we're right on time for this great racing at a circuit that has just so much history in grand touring and sports car racing, and it's not everyone's favorite, but for the people who love it, it is such a great track. High speeds, of course, definitely plenty of slipstreaming in places, and you've always got to check that your seatbelts are tight before you go up over Radion.
This is, of course, round 3 of the season. We did kick off a little bit earlier, got a couple rounds out of the way, in late 2022. Red Bull Ring, Monza, we're here at Spa. We travel to another Grade 1 current F1 circuit in Silverstone next week, and the newest track on iRacing at Manicourt on January 17th. That'll be an interesting challenge for the rest of the field. Of course, the classic Daytona during the real-life Daytona 24-hour weekend, if my dates are correct. Street Circuit at Long Beach coming up after that, and then Interlagos, Road America, and a season finale at the tight quarters of Okayama. We had a season finale at Rudskogen last season, which was interesting in and of itself, but it's going to be another interesting season finale in about 2 months' time at Okayama. We've also got 2 rounds under our belts, so we can look at the championship standings here for the GT3 Fixed Series at the very least. And who else could possibly be leading the championship other than the chat's favorite driver? It's who else but Matt Scherf, 3 points ahead of Michael Terrafino, last season's champion. Matt Scherf broke onto the scene last week, finally got his first win, dominating at Monza. See if he can hang on for the rest of the season there. Aero Rexoy hanging on to P3, and then Go Million, Steffi, Martinez, Veloz, Kalaga, Dale Peterson, and Rodrigo Morales round out the top 10 in the driver's standings. And there are also the team standings, sometimes even closer than the driver's standings, and they're not so close this season just yet because it is Vulture Motorsports. Named that because they tend to pick up the pieces. They say they tend to ride at the back and pick up the pieces of whatever anybody else leaves behind. It's been the exact opposite. They've been winning races this season. They've been picking up the points, and South is actually ahead of the North in P1. Then Team Beef hanging on for P3, Forge Racing in their first season in the PRL P4, Lunatic Moonlight Speed Racing, We Race Esports, SGE Esports, E3 Motorsports, the other Forge Racing squad, Team Blue in 9th, and then YS Motorsports tied with them in P10. Qualifying is currently underway at the virtual Spa-Francorchamps here. Before we can go any further, before we can get into qualifying, we have to thank all the people who continue to make all of this possible. Of course, the VCO, the virtual competition organization, helping us out here at RaceSpotTV and helping make every single Precision Racing League broadcast this season and every season. This coverage is also brought to you by Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision5 coupon code. This coverage is brought to you by Racebox Sim Racing. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and also get a 5% discount, also using the Precision5 coupon code. Then from Racebox, we slide over to RaceLab apps. RaceLab helps you to improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration, you can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app. The Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products provide incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat with the Butt Kicker. And new for this 2023 season, it's Mecha Sim Hardware. Mecha Sim Hardware is a small company from the Czech Republic, and their goal is to produce high-quality sim racing hardware. If you're looking for a high-end pedal set, handbrake, or sequential shifter, visit Mecha Sim Hardware's eShop right now to get you up to speed and check them out. And last but not least, this coverage is brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Of course you are. Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. First time in 2023, thanking all the people that make this possible. And for the first time in 2023, we've got cars on track and qualifying.
Yeah, let's go. Love GT racing. Lots of variety of metal, of shapes, of styles, of configurations out there. And what's good in qualifying isn't necessarily always what's good in the race, but it will give us a little bit of a form guide as we look at the beautiful Ferrari 488 GT3 of Angelo Velos in this final sector. And you know what I love and I hate about this Circuit Spa-Francorchamps? It's such a huge lap, 7 kilometers long. You can do every corner so well, and you get to that final braking zone there at the bus stop, and you want to keep pushing, keep attacking, but a little bit too late, and you can throw away all of your good work from the minutes beforehand.
And because it is such a long lap here, we only have 10 minutes of closed qualifying here. You get 4 laps on the docket. But because the lap is so long, I don't think you're going to be able to get all 4 laps around here in addition to an out lap. You're basically stuck with 3 laps, and that is if you do get out of the pits in the first second of qualifying.
Yeah, typically sort of closer to 2-minute 10s, 2-minute 20s, a bit sort of like that around here. So you've got to do your whole out lap, and then these flying laps as well, handily over 2 minutes. You do pretty close to 2-minute lap times around the 5.5 kilometer circuit of Sebring, and this is another 1.5 kilometers long. It's quite the distance.
Angelo Velos coming off a pretty strong start to the season. I don't think he's really had any of the results he's desired. He finished 8 laps down last week at Monza, got a 20-point penalty, but before that, finished second behind Michael Terrafino at the Red Bull Ring to open the season. He's clearly got speed here. It's just been a little bit of a clumsy start to the season, but it's still very, very early days. Lots of time to get those mistakes out of the way. He was very, very quick in practice. P2 on the timesheets, I believe, but it was Michael Papagiano who topped practice this time out, and Michael Terrafino again. So dominant last season, the fastest driver in qualifying, got 60% of the poles last season. He was basically nowhere to be seen in practice.
So the drivers on those first flying laps right now, and we're approaching what I was talking about earlier. You'll have that comparison, that sort of delta in the dash, let you know if you're on a good lap or not. You'll know how you're doing, and Blanchimont a committed corner, but then it comes down to this final braking zone to see how brave you want to be on the first of what will be 3 flying laps. You can see still 5 minutes as Angelo Velos comes out of the final corner, and best times from practice was sort of 2:17. So I think Actually, you might get all 4. You might get around to start a 4th lap before the time elapses.
I don't think you'll get to finish it though, because it is closed qualifying. So when the clock hits 10, or when the clock hits 0 rather, you're done. So you'll get to start a 5th lap. I guess you can just go for it, get a couple of extra corners of practice, get 2 sectors of practice, but you better get it done in those first 3 laps or you are dead out of luck. Waldo Walden for SGE Sports here, another one of those drivers kind of doing what we like to reward here on RaceSpotTV, crossing the series, trying multiple disciplines. Normally we see Waldo in the NASCAR Cup Series on the oval side, but this season he said, you know what? I'm going to take on the GT3 cars. I'm going to take on the BMW GT3 specifically. And it's gone pretty well for him. No real spectacular results in the first 2 races of the season. But let's see what Waldo can do here. Coming out of the bus stop for his first lap. He's probably only going to get 2 laps actually in full here. But Waldo brings the line. Looks like it's a 2:19.6. So basically dead in the middle of the field for Waldo Walden. Where's Waldo? He's still representing himself pretty well.
He's always blending right into the middle of the picture. But yeah, you're right. 50-ish cars, 25th. You're right in the middle of what could be a danger zone there, but still in a relatively short race then starting the back as far as your prospects of a good result. It's one of the Audi R8s. One of the mid-engine cars should be good through that middle sector, theoretically, of the lap. These sort of medium speed corners, change of direction, should be Audi territory. You do have a lot of really high horsepower, high speed reward parts in the first and the 3rd sector of the lap. If you're measuring it in 3 sectors, my timing has 5 for a little more precision, but a little more confusion.
Numbers go big, numbers make commentator confused. That's usually how it goes.
I just know purple ones are good, baby.
Yeah, purple good, purple good. That's basically the extent of the mental math I can do. Good color, pretty color, that works for me. iRacing, he's been making some pretty colors over the past couple of weeks, and in the last season of 2022, when he made his debut, he was competitive, had some solid results, top 5s, top 10s, but this season, he was competitive for the win at Monza last week. He has had a ton of speed. He brings it to the line, doesn't improve though, about 0.3 of a second down in his fastest lap. He'll get one more shot, but just like at the Red Bull Ring 2 weeks ago, it's the Michael and Michael show up top. Michael Pabiano, Michael Terrafino, Canada versus the US. Canada's on top right now with Michael Pabiano, but they are ever so close, inseparable, 20,000th of a second between the two of them. We tune in with Frank Johnson here, another driver who's going to be easy to pick out because green. That's all I need. Don't need to pick out a livery or anything. You just see green, you know it's Frank Johnson. Doesn't look like this is going to be a green lap though.
No, he went very deep in that final corner there, and I think he had been off track in the 2nd sector, which on this timing would be that I'm looking at this section of track right here, where the track limits can enforce themselves pretty strongly as you go through sort of Melmedy, Lacombe, those parts of the track. The exit there can get you in some trouble, where the beautiful fjord of Eric Kulaga goes through at the moment. Just a few places where you do need to be very wary and respectful of your track limits in qualifying, but then also in the race a little bit as well.
I was about to say, I knew you were going to be very, very happy when Hugo cut to Eric Kalaga here. Didn't start the season in the Ford, if I remember correctly, but he said, you know what? Might as well drive around in style. It's not a, oh, well, that's a too much style there.
Yeah, we actually seen quite a few cars look wide of that sort of second apex in Puon there. And you've seen just there what can happen if you're low to the ground and you run too wide and you catch just the start of that curb. I thought our friend in the Audi, Yureksoi, was also a little wide on one of his laps that we saw through that part of the track there as well. So it's not a hot track at 22 Celsius. There should be plenty of grip in this section, but we'll see. There's a few cars that look understeery at the high speeds there.
Michael Terrafino in the big Beamer, as usual. Won the season opener at the Red Bull Ring a couple of weeks ago back in December. Looked like it was going to be a somewhat straightforward championship defense for him, but last time out at Monza, Michael Terrafino did not look like Michael Terrafino. Qualified in the middle of the field in qualifying, raced in the middle of the field in the race. but any kind of slump for him, any kind of sophomore slump we might have thought about has gone completely out the window because he is still competitive with Michael Pabiano here in qualifying. He's not going to make it to the line. He's not going to get one more lap and improve, but it's the Michael and Michael show on the front row again, and it's BMW versus Lamborghini up front. That's going to be an interesting duel up top, but 20,000 of a second separate the two of them. The BOP doing its job as qualifying has officially ticked to an end now. All laps are over, and we will set what is a 50-car grid, and even 50 cars tonight, and it is led for the second time this season by Michael Pabiano, who wins the Michael O battle over Michael Terrafino. Aero Urexoy starts P3 alongside Angelo Velos, and Angelo's We Race Esports teammate Rodrigo Morales rounds out the top 5. Rob Campbell, great qualifying for him in P6 in the Lamborghini. He starts right ahead of Sully Saad, who won't be too sad about that performance. Eric Kalaga brings the Ford up to P8, and Jay Steffi and Steven Martinez round out the top 10. Maurice Gomillion tops the Forge Racing squads, and Ryan Luna qualifies P12. I gotta say, that's probably his best qualifying in PRL history. Right ahead of Alex Wright, an unlucky 13th. He starts alongside Dino Vella. Colin McKenzie is P15 alongside Andrew Venaro. Chris Yatito, another Forge Racing driver, starts alongside Mark File for 4X Motorsports. I believe that's a new team name. Baron Glover, also for 4X Motorsports, starts alongside Jod Khalif, also for 4X Motorsports. All those Ferraris finding each other. Michael Kalaga, a little bit lower than his brother Eric, P21. Rob DeLoach, P22 in his Ferrari. Aiden Irvin and Jeff Costello make it all Lamborghini on row number 12. Jason Lotridge, P25. Greg Doucette in the Plaid, P26. Frank Johnson, not going to have a hard time picking him out. He starts alongside Drew DeWeese. Waldo Walden in the middle of the field, and Matt Dinsmore, P30. But the hits keep on coming. Selden Hamilton, Phil Amaro, last time out's winner, Matt Scherf, 32 spots below where he qualified last time out. He's P33 alongside Federico Carli, Steve Bammer, and Ryan Chandler, 35th and 36th. Felix Feliz, P37, alongside Jeff Fleischman, Barry Cochran, Greg McEnany, and Brian Hoskins down to 41st. Roy Brown, way lower than I'd expect him to be in 42nd. Jonathan Diggs starts alongside Jordan Walker. Andre Bonatti did not get a lap time in qualifying. Look for him to drive his way through the field, as well as Lucio Vargas, as well as Gary Weaver, as well as Regan Chandler, as well as Patrick Cowgill, and as well as Baron Hilton. Lots of drivers not able to get qualifying laps in, but 50 cars now sit on the grid here at Spa. It's a short pace lap. We will get going here in a matter of moments. But David, it's 50 cars at Spa. There's almost going to be no place not to look. There's going to be no calm whatsoever.
Yeah, we talked about they didn't get their full allocation of laps in the qualifying, and it is a big lap around here with some tough track limits, and I think that really took a toll on some drivers in qualifying.
Green flag basically instantly out the second you get out of the bus stop, and it's a great start by Michael Pabiano. There's already a little bit of a jump. Angelo Veloz peeks to the inside of Terrafino. Terrafino's later on the brakes into last source, though. He's able to hang on to P2 as 50 cars file through turn 1 here. Looks like it's clean for the moment, but lap 1 at Spa, it's always close quarters.
Yeah, you've got to be careful on your tires. You've got to be careful on this first lap, and the slipstream down the straight, and the Camel straight off this section is going to be pretty massive for drivers to pull out sort of 2 wide, 3 wide potentially by the end of this.
Aero Urexoy versus Rob Campbell into Lacombe for the first time. Remember, Aero qualified higher than this. He's fallen down a little bit, but Rob Campbell to the outside, becomes the inside, becomes the outside again. Almost makes contact with Aero Urexoy, but Rob Campbell's up into P4.
And there you go, really challenging section there with the 3 apexes, changing direction. You want to get your nose ahead, get clear by that 3rd apex, and he's just able to do it as he takes that 4th place away with what might have been just a little kiss of contact. Veloz shows us where those track limits aren't, and that's one of the places that can catch you out in qualifying, and they'll not have to abuse too much in the race.
His teammate Rodrigo Morales did the same thing coming down the hill there. Picked up and off track, had to check up actually to not get into the wall. That's how wide he was. Lost that spot to Eric Kalaga now, and to Steven Martinez as well. Finds himself under pressure from Sully Saad, and finds himself under pressure from Ryan Luna in the top 10, I think for the first time in his PRL career. It's been a great first half of lap 1 for Ryan Luna.
And I say this correctly, yes, a drive-through penalty after just 13 incident points. So, yeah, that's that is definitely going to say you can't be extending the track limits too often or too freely in this race. Maybe that's your one free pass on lap 1, and you've got to behave after that.
I did Indy Fixed at Watkins Glen earlier today, and I got 16 instant points. So I'd be dead out of luck here as a driver who's been disqualified from many a PRL race, including some at Spa here.
What's
those track limits?
What's a Fleet Fixed? I haven't heard of that.
Oh, I haven't heard of that either. I was making something up. I don't know what that is. Oh dear, the 48 of huge trouble. The 48 of huge trouble. That is who it is. Greg McEnany's around as well. Drew DeWeese in trouble. That's a weird place to crash. I have to imagine they came together at Blanchimont or something. Hopefully we get a spot of that. And Ryan Luna's around, as well as Rodrigo Morales. I was commenting on how it was Ryan Luna's best day ever in the PRL, and suddenly that banana cream Lamborghini's turned around at turn 1.
Yeah, big dramas at La Source there, and you can't see where the cars are because of the big concrete wall that sits at the apex of the corner, so you do go in a little bit blind. The yellow flag could be waving. He's just got a lot of the curb on the way in and not being able to save the slide on the replay there. But yeah, when you get a couple of cars speared around at the exit of the source, as you're approaching, there's a yellow flag, but you might not know where the cars are, which way to go to avoid them until you're already on the scene of it.
Almost a little bit of contact there coming through the exit of La Source. I think that's Chris Yatito in the Audi, if my memory serves me correctly. Sully Saad in the Audi as well. He's having some big trouble right now. I don't know if that car is damaged, but Sully is struggling quite a bit now. He's pulling out of the way. He's got to have damage.
Well, we've got the latest iRacing update of the damage model across these GT3 cars now, so that's what's done it. 2 cars around and broadside. Yeah, I struggle to look at the cars and know what's wrong with them anymore, to be honest with you.
It's always difficult. You got to diagnose the problems, but just like a doctor, we don't have any instruments to look to the inside. I think that is what got Sully Saad that damage. Or he's serving a slowdown from going under the runoff in La Source. I don't know which that is. Doesn't look especially damaged, but also he continues to fall down the order. He's P24 now. That'd be a pretty big slowdown to go from the top 10 to P24.
Yeah, sure.
He's around again. He's around again onto the back straight. I think he got clipped. I don't know who clipped him, but that is Sully Saad around. Whether he had a slowdown, whether he had damage, we know for sure he's got damage now, and Sully Saad takes the toe back.
Wide, he's on the marbles, he spins it, and there is a big angry pack immediately behind him.
It's Frank Johnson in the Ferrari, of course, that basically just went broadside into the side of Sully Saad there. Lots of trouble here on lap 1. Steven Martinez and Eric Kalaga came together as well in Fania. Eric Kalaga, I don't know if there was actually contact there, if he did get dumped around or before just kind of gave up mid-corner. Either way, shame for that Ford to end up at the back of the field, but we've got trouble up front here. We've got the battle between the Michael O's that we saw 2 weeks ago, or a month ago rather. Terrafino versus Pabiano, side by side into Lake Com. Terrafino has the inside. Again, it becomes the outside. Pabiano's still trying to fight back, but Terrafino's got the momentum into the lead.
Great sight for Veloz now. He's all over them, looking to dive down the inside into Ravage here as well, and there's not quite room for him to put the nose of the Ferrari. 3 manufacturers for your top 3, and it's a great battle.
Terrafino using up one of his allowed off tracks there, I guess. Might as well get one of them out of the way in the Team Beef BMW. Now the question is, can Pabiano fight back? That's where he struggled at the Red Bull Ring in round 1 of this season. He got pulled. He was able to hold back Terrafino in the short term. But once Terrafino got by him, he was just checking out into the distance. That's always been the difficult thing. Even in this BMW, it's not the car that's necessarily the preferred car in this field. But Terrafino's comfortable in it, and when you let him get out front, he can do magical things with that car.
Looks like Veloz in 3rd place has got the fastest lap of the race at the moment, or he would if he hadn't run off track on that lap. So it's not going to count for the fastest lap of the race. Still, it's the fastest tour anyone has done yet. And having just said that, he has dropped back 0.6 or so off of that 2nd place.
Fabiano under brakes into the bus stop here. Seems to be pretty good on the brakes. He's able to close the gap down, but can he stick with Terrafino is the question. Aiden Irvin here in the Hornet's Nest in the middle of the field, trying to challenge Andrew Venaro here. Venaro, another one of those drivers we always like to circle as being good at staying out of trouble, at being consistent. He's got some trouble to his inside here, though. Irvin in that Lamborghini tries to be late in the brakes. Not able to dive into the inside of Venaro, though, because Venaro's too late on the brakes. Opens the door to the outside now on the exit of the bus stop. Ferrari versus Lamborghini. We're not in Italy anymore, but we might as well be.
Yeah, there you have it. Very tightly packed in this section of the pack. As you see the Ferrari look down the inside there as well. So a little mistake is going to cost you a lot of positions in this part of the field. I think they're side by side for that lead again, Joey.
Here comes that ever-present Lamborghini again. Pabiano, a little bit of a squeeze on the turn in there. But once again, clear Terrafino in that BMW. Pabiano's not letting Terrafino run away this time.
And immediately looks to cover off into Rivage and into the next sector of the lap as well. So the Lamborghini looking good.
Very, very nimble. The BMW never looks nimble, but Terrafino always finds a way to make it nimble. He's still going to stick to the back of Pabiano here, but have to imagine he's going to have to wait a little while here as we do have trouble in the bus stop. A huge checkup at the back of the field, and half the field just comes piling in. That was Patrick Cowgill in the 24. Lucio Vargas did a good job of avoiding things, but Patrick Cowgill got murdered there.
Absolutely did. A very, very severe accordion effect, I think it kind of ended up being. You go from kind of your top of sixth gear, breaking down to turn into the corner in first gear as well. So it is the biggest stop on the lap. It's bigger than into La Source. It's bigger than at the end of the Kemmel Straight.
Here we go. Pabiano versus Terrafino part 2.
Fourth lap of this race now. Terrafino hasn't had a clean one yet, so he's got at least 3 incidents, potentially more. And yeah, this racing, this battling for the lead could still go on, and he won't have too many of them left in his back pocket by the end of the race, by the looks of it.
Turn 1 here. It's a good exit from Terrafino. Lost a little bit of time under braking again. That seems to be where Pabiano is at his strongest. But we have a very, very long full throttle section here onto the Kemmel Straight. Terrafino's closing and closing and closing. He's going to remember what Pabiano did to him coming into Lake Como on the last lap. It was a big squeeze. Terrafino's going to try to do it again in reverse.
Very interesting indeed. The Lamborghini immediately covering off. Pabiano is going to then drive middle of the road and look to hold on to that one. The Ferrari gets a good slipstream, and it's got wicked straight line pace there. It does not look like Veloz is quite able to stick with the speed of the leading 2.
Looks like Aero Urexo has gotten back by Rob Campbell as well, but here is that Hornet's Nest in the middle of the field. Andrew Venaro, Eric Kalaga, Greg Doucette as well. This is actually further in the back of the field. It's a lot of drivers going on recovery drives here. Remember, Kalaga in that Ford, he was legitimately in P8 before he got dumped around a little bit. He's still trying to move his way forward. Venaro tries to get to the inside of Greg Doucette. Doesn't work out for him, and he's under pressure from Maurice Gomillion now, who dives into the inside. Venaro's able to cover him off, though. Colin McKenzie's in trouble in the middle of the field right as we see him losing it on the exit of the corner. He's going to fall to the back of the field here. It was a great run for Colin McKenzie as well, running in the top 10 in that Audi. But he's been bitten. Did he get bitten by an evil curb? He was already getting loose before he even turned into the corner. And there he goes.
Not the first time we've seen these Audis really struggle with managing the curbs. And that car is not steering straight at all for Greg Doucette.
Greg Doucette doing his best crab impression there. That's very far off the track. He must have had a massive moment here. Oh, no, he didn't. 4X Motorsports living up to their name. I don't know who that was who drove onto the track, but there was just an out-of-control Ferrari and nowhere where Greg Doucette could go. It was the 00 Baron Glover, and he just spears Doucette.
Meyer looked to get down the inside at Puon of someone else there, and it did not work out for him at all. Couldn't gather it up in the acres of runoff that there are. Back for this lead.
Here comes Terrafino again. Last time out, didn't seem that interested in fighting for the lead, and he's doing exactly the same thing now. Is Terrafino starting to think about the fuel saving game? Maybe he doesn't want to fight side by side with Pabiano and let Veloz get into the fight. Maybe he's happy to just ride behind, save a little bit of fuel, and shorten that pit stop at a couple of minutes' time.
Well, there's only a couple of cars that look to challenge them on pace at the moment. They've had a couple of laps of pulling away from the rest of the field, and now it's sort of, Veloz, Campbell, and Orexoi behind the top five, and then there is a bit of a gap to Steven Martinez in sixth. So you can start to count on just the one hand who your rivals are and think about how you're going to cover them off to the finish of this one.
Pit stops not required in this series by the rules, but they are required by the laws of physics. You're not going to be able to go on a zero stop here at Spa. So every driver will come in for a little bit of fuel, likely no tire changes. The stops tend to take too long for a tire change to actually be worth it. But we will see drivers come in and take a little bit of fuel whenever they so choose. It always depends when the pit stop window opens. At a place like Spa, which is very fuel thirsty, I imagine it'll open a little bit earlier. And there's going to be a lot of drivers who want to come in with damage now. You look through the field, and it does look a little bit like a used car lot. Drew DeWeese here, remember on lap one, he absolutely murdered the nose of that Audi exiting Blanchimont. It's completely crumpled in. Somehow, by surviving until now, Drew DeWeese is still P23.
Yeah, another one of those cars, another one of those Audis that got just a little bit of curb and looked very upset by it. Not sure it gives you great straight line speed, to be honest with you.
I think so. It's a nice texture, though. Maybe it's going to put some worry in the eyes of Jeff Fleischman. He got kind of bullied around a couple of times last season. He got shoved around by some drivers like Gary Brown, and now he sees another driver with a crumpled up front end, and he's thinking, please, not again. Please, no more shoves. Baron Glover dives it to the inside, a little bit of Drew DeWeese there, but the damaged Ferrari does not win out over the damaged Audi, and neither of them are winning out over a perfectly pristine Jeff Fleischman Mercedes.
One of the other complications of a large lap like this is it reduces how many options you have on your strategy, because it reduces the number of laps that you can fit in 35 minutes, reduces the number of times you drive by the pit entry. Here is what happened for these two cars in Blanchimont. A difference of speeds, a collision. Does not end nicely for either.
There's Roy Brown going around, well avoided by Ryan Luna there. One of the fastest parts of the track. Ryan Luna somehow managed to avoid more trouble. It did look like a slalom, but Roy Brown's done. Greg McEnany is in the pits. He's taken a tow. He is not your race leader, unfortunately. I'm sorry, Greg. Baron Hilton as well, back on pit lane. Greg Doucette back on pit lane. Barry Cochran and Jonathan Diggs as well are drivers who still stuck on pit lane with a little bit of extra damage. We've still got these damaged cars out on the racetrack with the damaged Audi trying to fight back there. And two Forge Racing drivers have now found each other in the top 10. Chris Yatito and Maurice Gomillion. Forge Racing Ferraris, both Team Gold drivers. They're going to have to start thinking about team orders here as they chase down Dino Vella.
They're driving the right cars for it. Yeah. Maurice, Chris is faster than you. Think about it. We'll see.
Tune in live to Forge Racing Pit Box.
Yeah, forging, of course, costs 150 food and adds 1 damage to cavalry and infantry.
I would also say that the race result with team orders would be a forgery.
Ooh, a curb, an Audi. I think I've got 3 marks carved into the side of my prison cell on that one.
Arrow You Wreck Soy, it wasn't quite a wreck. I guess we'll call him Arrow You Spin Soy for the moment. And he had such a gap back to Steven Martinez in 6th that he didn't lose anything. He just got to flail around for a little bit and he gets to hang on to P5. But there is that pit window open, and the first driver to get defenestrated out of that window is Andrew Vanara.
Yeah, there you have it. A not so damaged looking car working its way on a pit lane, and it is going to stay all 4 wheels on the ground. So things have gotten a little more interesting in that sort of strategy department now that if you are taking a full load of fuel, you can get tyres for freezies, but you're not taking a full load of fuel here. So it is a question, are you going to get more performance out of a new set of tyres? And for a 35-minute race, still looks like the answer is no. It's not worth giving up, 10 or even 5 seconds on pit lane.
Choo-choo, the damaged car train is back in the station here. Drew DeWeese finally trying to clear Jeff Fleischman. But again, into Les Combes, Fleischman doing a great job of fighting back against that Audi. DeWeese trying to switch back, trying to do everything he can. But that is the widest Mercedes in the world. He can't get by Fleischman.
No, certainly looked to have a good go in the slipstream, but didn't look to maybe have the stability to outbrake in that section where you need to be able to get through. And I thought that was a silly move, but then he got given a bit too much space there at No Name.
A little bit silly, a little bit goofy, but maybe if nothing else is working, you might as well go clown mode. Didn't quite work out for DeWeese though. I do just want to update the viewing public on our championship leader, Matt Scherf. Maybe a short-lived championship lead, but he started 33rd. He stayed out of trouble. Haven't seen him get involved anywhere. He is up to P19 right now, so 14 spots up for Matt Scherf. Unfortunately for him, the driver who's behind him in the championship is still 17 spots ahead of him in second.
And I think the trouble for him there is he's just set his personal best lap of the race at a 2:20. The best lap for your leaders there is 2:18, so he's not gotten within 2 seconds of what Terrafino, Pabiano, Veloz, etc. have been capable of. Martinez is pitted from 6th as well. You can see that on the timing column, so I wonder if we'll see more drives from this section, particularly those maybe with a bit of damage. Think about pit entry. There we go.
You are a psychic, David Haynes. The damaged car, Drew DeWeese, comes in. The damaged car, Baron Glover, comes in as well. I don't know how long they're going to sit in their box to get any of that damage fixed. I don't think they have time to sit and wait and let the virtual mechanics pound everything out, as Michael Terrafino has just spun from P2. Oh, dearie me. The BMW goes around. Did he get any help from Michael Pabiano or Angelo Veloz? Looks like absolutely not.
It's just a kiss of that outside curb on the turn-in. You can do the same thing a little bit further around at Jackie X.
And Pabiano's around as well. Sorry, David, but both of our race leaders, both Michaels, have gotten into trouble on the same lap.
Mikey, no. How has it happened for the Lamborghini, and what kind of gift is this for Veloz? That's so peculiar. It's like the rears have locked up on a downshift or something. It looks pretty good on the way into the corner, and then mid-corner, just nope.
And that was only 2 corners, I think, after Terrafino had his little oopsie. So I don't know if Pabiano was distracted, looking at his relative or what, but you're exactly right. The perfect gift for Angelo Veloz, the perfect gift for Rob Campbell. The 2 dominant Michaels. One of them's got front-end damage, one of them's got rear-end damage, and both of them are 6 and 12 seconds behind the lead now.
Things look good for Rob Campbell, actually. He's just set the fastest lap of the race, the fastest clean lap of the race, as far as I can tell. So he's come into a little bit of pace lately, and he's going to come into a little bit of pit lane right now.
Veloz is in, Campbell is in. We'll see if Pabiano, Urexoy, Terrafino follow him in. I have to imagine they will. And that kind of tells me we're at the hard end of the fuel tank here. There's not much longer that any drivers can go. Now it becomes a race on pit lane. Can Veloz hold off Campbell here? Veloz has been kind of riding in the draft of Pabiano and Terrafino all race long. Has he been able to save a little bit of fuel? We'll see here. Comes to his box. No error there. He's got a little bit of trouble because there is one of the YS Motorsports Lamborghinis in his pit stall. But no, Veloz does win the race off pit lane. Campbell second. Put a blanket over both of them.
Yeah. partly cloudy, 21 Celsius. They might need to have a little bit of a cuddle. It is 80 kilometers an hour on the Grand Prix pit lane for a speed limit, but 60 on the endurance pit. So I'm sure everyone quite thankful to be using that shorter, speedier pit lane. It's about a third the time to get in and through and out on this pit than the 24-hour pit lane. But it is busy in that compressed pit lane with some shared stalls.
Somehow Maurice Gomillion has managed to go an extra lap compared to the rest of the field. I don't know how he's managed that, but we've got Mercedes versus Mercedes exiting pit lane here. This is not really a place on the track that's 2 cars wide, and I think both of them realize that. Federico Carli does come out ahead of Jeff Fleischman there, and both of them are going to come behind those 2 damaged cars they were stuck behind for so long. Baron Glover's gotten by.
It's a very interesting, almost everyone, with a few little exceptions, through the pit lane already. Is it a mistake and a miscalculation from the others, or are they just saved more in these opening goings, feeling braver, willing to cut it a little closer?
Colin versus Baron, Glover versus McKenzie. Colin McKenzie gets his elbows out through Lake Com, shoves Baron Glover out of the way. He's going to take P25 now, the driver who designs all those lunatic speed liveries. Certainly showing his off pretty well there.
Very gutsy move with a little bit of a squeeze at the second apex, but then gives him the full line through the right-hander and down the hill, ready to get on the attack now that everyone is, with a few little exceptions, made their pit stop. Surely we're going to see Gomillion right now.
I have to imagine this by the laws of physics he does, and yes, he does indeed. But Michael Terrafino here, he finds himself basically where he was at Monza last week. He had a shot at the win in the bag, and now he's got a likely heavily damaged front end of a BMW in front of him. He's trying to chase down Steven Martinez, but when you're in a BMW, it's already got a straight line speed disadvantage to the Ferrari. I have to imagine that front end being crumpled in doesn't help him either.
Yeah, when you get the closer look, it's not so great for them there. So pretty quick stop from Maurice Gomillion. That's good news for him. Now that everyone's through, Veloz can feel comfortable. He's got the lead from Rob Campbell and then from Fabiano. It's been a good couple of laps out of the lane for Veloz, because you remember how close Campbell was on him initially as they came into pit lane and as they came out of the pit lane. But Ferrari for Veloz, with a little bit more weight back on it after the refueling, he's still pretty comfortable with it. We did see for Fabiano that the Lamborghini was looking a little twitchier potentially.
It's not been a great day for Team Beef. The team's champions last season, if I remember correctly, Roy Brown, we saw him get erased from existence at Blanchimont. Was there a beef joke there?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. I think I spoke over all of your beef jokes, but with Michael Terrafino getting that nose damage, I think Team Beef is probably creamed chipped beef tonight. That's a distinctly American joke, I think.
Joey, what do you call a cow with no legs?
Ground beef.
Correct.
Of course. The old classic. We got to get all the beef jokes, all the cow jokes out. We haven't taken advantage of that. We've been so distracted by the beautiful cartoons of the hot dogs and the Italian beefs and the hamburgers. We haven't broken out enough beef jokes.
Whoa, hello. That's broken out of line. Ferrari having a moment. Andrew Venaro on the way into the right-hander at Fania.
Just as I was complimenting him on his extensive abilities to stay out of trouble, to kind of stay out of our view until the moments when he finds himself in the top 10, Spa breaks for nobody. Everybody has made a mistake tonight, even the strongest drivers in this field. Andrew Venaro, no exception to that. He's recovered, got a little bit of grass in the tires. Unlike about half the field, that car is still pristine. We just got the Hugo Panopticon to exhibit his mistake, though.
And there's something to be said about not turning a little mistake into a big mistake, because he cut across the grass and, you know, lost a little bit of time, but will carry on. If you were very stubborn with that kind of slide, trying to make the next apex, you could completely loop the car and make a little mistake into a big mistake.
Haven't said much about the Chandlers so far tonight. They've been kind of running their own race here, but Regan Chandler peek into the inside of Fleischmann. Fleischmann says, please, for the love of that BMW, do not dive into the inside. Regan says, I'm going to do it anyway, and Chandler is indeed clear Jeff Fleischmann. We see Regan's background. Regan always has the clear background. We can always see his bookshelves. But about 2 spots behind him, behind Fleischmann, behind Felix Feliz, is his brother Ryan Chandler. A little bit further back, not faring quite so well in that Mercedes. We'll probably ride on board with him a little bit later, but Fleischmann's trying to fight back on this BMW now.
He's wearing a hat indoors.
And that, I think, is what held off Jeff Fleischmann there. No cap. Or I guess, yes cap.
Yeah, my brain's hurting. My brain's hurting now, but well done. He was definitely driving in the mirrors a tiny bit down the Kemmel Straight, as you've got to do. Try to make sure you can position yourself so that you don't offer up whatever you think is the best line. Now, this is one of the really tough corners to try to overtake into. What's happened back there?
I think that's Felix Feliz around in the background, hard into the wall. We've seen a lot of drivers get into trouble on that part of the track, and as we looked away, one Mercedes in trouble, another Mercedes in trouble again. Jod Khalif in that Ferrari, clear of Federico Carli. These two are kind of fighting in an island of their own. There's quite a gap up ahead, but let's see what happened here. To the 10 of Felix Feliz. Kabang!
Yeah, he got a lot of the curb on the turn-in, cut a lot of the curb at the apex, and then had quite a bit of steering lock on as he went wide onto that painted concrete, less grip out there, and he let go on him, and it kind of stole the show from that great move from the Ferrari driver, because that is not an easy place to pass there into Pouhon. It's not a big braking zone. You approach at a lot of speed, and it's just a tiny dab on the brakes. So when you are on the inside line, it can really, really compromise you, really get you in trouble, and it's tough to get past there compared to, you know, your big braking zones like La Source and the bus stop.
Suddenly, Kathy and Sam and Brandon are leaning far closer into their TVs right now because Matt Scherf is finally making himself known in this race. He's been quietly moving his way forward through the field after a disappointing qualifying, and now he's deciding he wants to put on a show, trying to fight with the Forge Racing BMW. That's Jason Lotridge, coming off attempting to compete in the US 500 here on RaceSpotTV a couple of days ago. Unfortunately, he now has the championship leader to his inside, and Matt Scherf takes P19 for the moment. Next up on his list is Buck Hamilton in P18. I believe we knew him as Selden Hamilton earlier this season, but he's decided to buck that name.
There you go. Yeah, good move. And now you've got to pretty quickly look eyes up to the next car. It's not long left in this race. Your lead is not far away from starting. 2 laps to go if I've got the count right. In fact, depending where Angelo Veloz is, it's going to be pretty close. It's going to be pretty close if it's 2 or 3 more in this. Crosses the line now with a 2:17.8. Wow. I love when that happens.
Yeah, we've got some interesting math because Angelo Veloz was in the box for 14.2 seconds. Rob Campbell was in for 13 seconds. There's kind of a difference throughout the field. Some drivers in for 14 to 15 seconds, others in for that 13-second mark. Is that the difference between being 1 lap short and making it to the end?
Yeah, and we've seen Campbell drop back a bit across this stint. Maybe he's seeing something about those fuel numbers and he's continuing to drop back further from your leader, Angelo Veloz, because if Veloz keeps doing 2:17s, then this race will go 1 lap longer. It was, so we're talking 2:17 as a lap potentially for your leader, and there was 4 minutes 35 on the clock when he took the line, so it is right on that knife edge, and he's finding some stride as the track continues to cool off a little bit into this later afternoon, early evening time slot. And he's got
it wasn't
a lot
hard
of clear
enough.
track in front of him as well. He got a lot of clear track in front of him for Veloz. Given that, you know, it's a 7-kilometer lap, it is a lot tougher to end up a lap down than some other circuits.
As if it wasn't hard enough. He's been racing the other drivers, he's been racing the track, and now suddenly he has to race the clock as well. So that's just another variable that you don't necessarily expect to have to race with here. But Angelo Veloz, if that does come to fruition, if there is an extra lap, I have to imagine he's in a better situation with more fuel in the car. Then you look back to Steven Martinez in P5. He's the next driver who wasn't in the box for 13 seconds getting that amount of fuel. We tune back in here to Matt Scherf. He's still trying to get a couple of extra positions before the dying seconds of this race to the inside of Buck Hamilton here. Audi versus Mercedes. Matt Scherf clear already on the exit of the corner. 43 up into P18. He's got about 4.5 seconds up to Andrew Venaro now. I think that might be his last move of the race. But way to recover after a disappointing qualifying.
He had a huge wiggle on the way in there as well and nearly got rear-ended. So, yeah, the guys behind him in Hamilton and Lottridge have been quite kind to him now that he's gotten through.
Lottridge just a little bit of a peek to the inside there into Fania, not necessarily going for a move, but just letting Buck Hamilton know, I'm here. I'm still a BMW. I've still got a very large nose that I can peek to your inside at any time. He does it again coming into Stavolo here. The BMW not necessarily going to be faster than the Mercedes in a straight line here down the back straight, and Lottridge really hemorrhages his momentum there by throwing it off the road through Courpal Frere, but he was making himself known. He's not giving up.
Nearly ended up in France if you run too wide there, and I don't think we got the white flag when Veloz crossed the line, so I think it is 2 more from here. It was again so close to sort of 2 minutes 17, 2 minutes 20, something like that. As he crossed the line, have a good look as these drivers do. Does Barney got a white flag in his hands? Oh, he does. He does. So it will be the last lap. So close to going one more lap, but it won't.
Any drivers with worries about fuel, they are very, very happy right now. They saw that white flag. None of them are going to be as happy as Angelo Veloz, though. He might have been good on fuel. He might have been just fine. But in the process of this final stint, he has pulled a 3.5 second gap over Rob Campbell. It has been an absolutely textbook performance from Angelo Veloz here. Of course, he got a little bit of luck. You know, Papiano made a mistake. Terrafino made a mistake, but that's not really luck. Angelo Veloz ran a perfect race, made no mistakes when nobody else could.
Well, he's run 95% of a perfect race so far. He's still got to get around on this final lap. Pabiano
versus Urexoy. This battle's not over. Pabiano wants to get back on the podium here. I'm sure he's very, very unhappy about losing this win, but he can make it that little bit better if he's still on the podium, onto the back straight for the final time. It's going to have the full effect of the draft here coming into Blanchimont. Will he go for the dive? We'll have to wait and see. But for the first time in the Precision Racing League, everything's gone right for Angelo Veloz for We Race Esports. He's going to win his first race in the PRL over Rob Campbell. Errol Urexoy and Michael Pabiano, though, they're going to battle into the bus stop. Pabiano dives to the inside, and he's going to get the podium.
Wow. For that final podium step, it got super close, and Martinez and Terrafino just behind them. You notice that the time ran out on the clock as your leader was coming out of the final corner and towards the timing line. So just a couple seconds away from that. Here's the Ford, another dive bomb into the final corner on the final lap, but this time the driver runs too deep.
Alex Wright threw everything at the bus stop there, but couldn't get it stopped, and frankly, I don't even think he expected to get it stopped. I think he was just trying to force Kalaga into a mistake. Here comes Colin McKenzie on Buck Hamilton as well, around the outside. Again, a lunatic Moonlight speed driver is absolutely sending it into the bus stop. This time it works out for Colin McKenzie, and a little bit of an oversteer moment for Buck Hamilton on the exit means he's not going to get P19 there. Drew DeWeese around as well in the final corner of the race. His hellish race just got a little bit worse.
More damage on that car than I think even last time we looked at it. It's not been an easy one. The GT3 cars look a little twitchier, a little tougher to drive than they had been in past, and that Audi does look like one of the twitchier of the bunch with its mid-engine layout and maybe not responding to well to bumps and curves.
I guess it is fitting that Drew DeWeese strives for parabola racing, because it started at rock bottom, it rose, and then everything fell apart after that. But Angelo Veloz, victorious for the first time in the PRL. He wins at Spa over Rob Campbell. Michael Pabiano finishes in third after looking like he had a shot at the win. Errol Urexoy, another good race from him in P4, and Steven Martinez, P5 for him. Very solid result. Michael Terrafino, last season's champion, wrecked out of the fight for the lead, hang on to P6 at the end of it all. Then it was Forge Racing, P7, 8, and 9, with Gomillion, Vela, and Yatito. Jay Steffi ran a little bit of his own race in P10. P11 at the end of it all went to Michael Kalaga. Aiden Irvin was in the Kalaga sandwich ahead of Eric Kalaga in the beautiful Ford. Alex Wright threw everything at Eric Kalaga there in the final lap, and he comes home with P14. Rob DeLoach, after a disappointing qualifying, still drives it up into the top 15. And Rodrigo Morales, after getting punted around on lap 1, turn 1, still finishes P16. Matt Scherf got by Colin McKenzie at the end of it all. He finishes P17. McKenzie, Hamilton, and Jason Lotridge round out the top 20. P21 went to Waldo Walden, Baron Glover, Andrew Venaro, and Jod Khalifa. Trio of Ferraris with a little bit of bad luck. Regan Chandler won the Chandler battle in P25 ahead of Drew DeWeese. Federico Carli, Jeff Fleischman, Ryan Luna, and Lucio Vargas rounded out the top 30. Disappointing day for Ryan Luna after a lot of promise, by the way. Gary Weaver brought it home on the lead lap in P31. Felix Feliz, Ryan Chandler, Phil Amaro, Jordan Walker, Greg McEnany, and Brian Hoskins rounded out the drivers who were able to stick on the lead lap tonight. And then we get into the used car lot already of drivers with very heavy damage. Matt Dinsmore was 2 laps down. Barry Cochran, Frank Johnson went 3 and 5 laps down, respectively. Roy Brown, Baron Hilton, Greg Doucette, Jonathan Diggs, Patrick Cowgill, Jeff Costello, Mark File, Sully Sod, and Steve Bammer rounded out 49 cars in the field tonight. Oh my goodness. And we're about to have 50 more in the GT3 sprint race coming up. But before we can get to that, we get to talk to Angelo Veloz here. Angelo, you've just won your first PRL race. Angelo Veloz, do you have a copy?
Hi, copy.
There we go. We got Angelo Veloz here.
I was a lucky boy today. Mike and Terrafino and Pabelano estavam. They are really fast. I'm just a lucky boy today, but I'm happy, very happy.
It's a little bit of trouble in the first 2 races of the season, but with this win here, is this the start of a potential
Monza,
championship season?
Yes, in Monza I was terrible, and I make so many mistakes. And today, this victory is very happy. Is very good.
Congrats on your first win, Angelo, and we'll see you in 1 week's time at Silverstone.
Okay.
Angelo Veloz, your victor here at Spa. Looks like we do have P2 here. Rob Campbell gets to talk to David Haynes.
Congrats, Rob. Second place there. Very close for the leaders as you came through the pit lane. And how was the car after that stop?
Yeah, thanks. Well, I took it a little easy on the outlap with the cold tires. The car was really dicey at the start of the race with the cold tires, so I didn't really know how it was going to react. So that allowed Angelo to get away a little bit, and I just couldn't get back in his draft again after that, and he just ran away from me.
Drivers still getting used to the GT3 changes, I guess, since the latest build. How have you been finding driving the Lamborghini?
I found the Lambo has actually improved from past seasons. I struggled with the Lambo before with losing the back end. It seems a little more planted than what it was in seasons past, but it still has that Lambo characteristic. If you downshift too quick, the back end's going to want to step around on you.
Certainly lots of gear shifts around a 7-kilometer lap. Any favorite corners around here, and any corners where you just grimace a little more?
Unfortunately for me, Spa isn't it's not one of my favorite tracks, so it's generally a matter of just trying to survive it around here. So did a lot of discussing with the lunatic guys this week about where we should shift and turn in and so forth, and seems to pan out here tonight.
Well, it was a big field and a tough race. You come away with second. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It was Rob Campbell, your P2 finisher this evening. We got one more driver to talk to, Mike Pabiano. Well, Mr. Mike Pabiano, P3 tonight, still a podium, but have to imagine you must be pretty disappointed after what was possible.
Yeah, you know what? It's I went into this race thinking, just keep it clean, and unfortunately, I didn't. Still a podium. Happy about that. Lessons learned. Move on to the next race.
So what actually happened down there at the? I don't even remember where it was at this point, but the Lamborghini just seemed to loop around at random. Basically, what happened from your perspective?
Yeah, it was. I think it's just me trying to learn this car a little bit more. I actually just bought this car at the beginning of the season, and trying to learn the different quirks that it has. I need to, I think, better manage my tires, especially on a fixed setup, because it does tend to get squirrely under braking, especially if you're trail braking in. But I lost it there. I think I just trailed in too much, and car spun and damaged a little bit.
Still the first podium of the season at the end of it all. Next week we go to Silverstone, another F1 track. How are you feeling about that place?
I like Silverstone. Yeah, looking forward to that. It's going to be tricky. There's a lot of technical bits to it and a lot of fast, parts to it. There's a lot of fast guys in this league, and I think I just got to put in the seat time.
Adam Brockway says great P3 finish, by the way.
Oh, thanks, Adam. Yeah, well, thanks for all my team at YS SimSport. Very great bunch of guys, and the support that they give is really tremendous. Thanks to those guys.
Always happy to see YS Motorsports here in the PRL, but Mike Pabiano, your P3 finisher tonight. Congratulations to him. Congratulations to everybody who, frankly, survived that race. That was a race of chaos and calamity at times, especially for our race leaders. Angelo Veloz survives all of it and comes out on top, though, but we're not done. That is not the last of GT3 racing at Spa here tonight. First of all, we do go to Silverstone next week, like I did mention, January 10th, next Tuesday, same time, same place here on RaceSpotTV. We go GT3 racing once more with the Fixed and Sprint Series in Buckinghamshire and Northamptonshire, if I remember my two counties correctly. Silverstone Circuit, the birthplace of racing, I guess you could say, the birthplace of Formula One in 1950. We'll take some GT3 cars there in a week time. But as I was saying, we're not done GT3 racing tonight. We've got a whole nother series for you, the GT3 Sprint Series with the Pro-Am split. Another sizable field of about 50 cars here. And I got deja vu. We're going GT3 fixed racing again at Spa. We're actually going GT3 sprint racing at Spa. Suddenly we trade the fixed setups of the fixed series with the open setups of the sprint series. All of the teams that you know and love from the Precision Racing League working on their own setup stuff here. But before we can get into qualifying here, it doesn't start for about 2 more minutes. Drivers taking on their last couple of laps of practice here. Here are the Sprint Series Pro standings. Remember, there is a Pro-Am split. There's about 30 drivers, I think, in Pro, and then about 20 in Am. Elliott White leads the Pro standings after winning at the Red Bull Ring to open up the season. Had a good run at Monza 2 weeks ago as well. I believe he finished on the podium, finished P3. Pat Pelshaw has been kind of the surprise of the season in P2. Karl Modoff came into the season as the winningest driver in PRL GT3 history. He finished second last week, had some trouble at the Red Bull Ring. He's trying to fight back and get his first win of the season. Then it's Krasowski, Caruso, Crisp, Olivier, McDonald, Morales, and Ethan Asowski who round out the top 10 in the Pro standings. And then we take on the Am standings as well, which are an interesting world. It's very, very close quarters at the top of the field because there's been a scoring change this season. If you weren't with us for the first 2 rounds of the season, Am drivers do not score the same amount of points for their wins. Usually before, the Pro driver, for example, would get 35 points for a Pro win. The Am winner would also get 35 points for their win. But instead, the Am winner just gets the amount of points that they would get based on their finish in the order. So Turner Schroll only has 16 points because his win in week 1 came when he finished in something like 20th, 30th place. And he's 3 points ahead of Blake Ziti, who won last week and scored 13 points for his win. Nathan Deering's P3, and then Christopher Ryan, Cedric Nevu, Kwok Nin, Matt Hilton, Downtown Gary Brown, Darren Rutherford, and former Supreme Court Justice William Brennan round out the top 10 in the Am standings. There's also it's not 2 team championships because of the the separation of the points, or the lack of separation of the points, rather. It's all in one. Precision Racing Esports in the Precision Racing League. No surprise, they're doing pretty darn well. First and third. In the middle is Delta Sport, and then Race Factory Blue. The Delta Sport Academy team is P4. Blue Chip Racing, SimCity Racing, Upfront Motorsports, Forge Racing, Speedworks Racing Team Esport Pro, and the third of the Precision Racing Esports squads round out the top 10. But practice is coming to an end here in the Sprint Series. About 5 seconds left on the clock. And once again, 10 minutes of closed qualifying. We're ready to do it all over again in the Sprint Series.
Be interesting to compare the pace a little bit, but also the style of racing. If any of the cars that looked a little twitchy, a little unstable, or difficult to drive earlier on are maybe a little more dialed in, or a little more to just drive a personal preference as we get into this open setup racing.
See who elects to burst out of the pits first. I think Sean Dickinson in the Lamborghini. He's won the race for SimCity Racing, the first driver out on track. He basically waited for the starting pistol to go off, and he was out of there. He's still not going to get all 4 of his laps, but he's going to get the most time on track of anybody.
And one of the things I did notice out of the previous qualifying session as well is that actually a lot of drivers are only getting 2 proper flying laps, because they take this out lap, they take their first flying lap, and then they opt to pit for new tires after that. That gives them 1 more flying lap, and then the clock's over, time's up, time's done. So that is how we ended up with some of those big names and multiple cars, I think, without qualifying times earlier on, because they realistically only had 2 flying laps at it. And once you've gone and maybe made a mistake or pushed the track limits too far on your first flying run, well, you've got 1 more after that, and sure, you want to then be more careful with that second lap, but flip a coin, 50-50 chance after that you got no qualifying time.
SimCity Racing were represented pretty well in the practice session. It was Martin Crisp who actually topped the entirety of practice. Martin was one of those drivers we looked at coming into this season, with the top drivers in this series last season kind of going their own separate ways. Sean Campbell has chosen to take on NASCAR Xfinity Racing instead. Vincent Trepanier is going GT3 Racing. Diego Morales couldn't make the full season. Suddenly there was a power vacuum at the head of the field, and it's been filled by some insanely strong drivers with the Precision Racing Esports team, with White, with Krasowski, with Delta Sport, with Karl Modoff and Connor Wagner. There's no absence of power at the head of the field, and Martin Crisp is certainly one of those drivers. Sean Dickinson as well, who fought for podiums last season. I believe he was so close to getting a podium at Oschersleben. He's going to come to the line here to finish his first out lap after an absolute eternity. Sean Dickinson's finally on the clock.
Yep, first flying laps here, and I didn't see many drivers, hanging back on that out lap as well, trying to push on to get around to get their laps into this 10-minute session, but also to build some temperature in the tires on that 7-kilometer loop around before you can start your flying lap. Very, very well balanced heading up Eau Rouge and Raidillon. Track temp 23 Celsius means there should be plenty of grip out there if you've got the tires to their best window.
Of course, when mentioning SimCity Racing, I, of course, can't be remiss not to mention that Martin Crisp won a race last season. He finished second on the track to Sean Campbell, but because it was Sean Campbell's car carousel, which was against the rules, his supreme win in the Ford at Suzuka was disallowed, and Martin Crisp, who finished second on the road, he still got the win because he followed the rules, and a win's still a win.
Favorite edition of the SimCity franchise?
I like GTA 3 SimCity.
Okay. I reckon I'm SimCity 4, then SimCity 2000.
I could just do the rest of this broadcast in Simlish. I think I could.
One of my favorite things about SimCity 2000 was you could go and import your cities from that into SimCopter and then fly a helicopter around them. That was a fun game.
I do worry that if I do the rest of this broadcast in Simlish, people are probably just going to think they're having a stroke, because that always happens. You know those songs in Simlish? Like they did We Are Young?
My Chemical Romance recorded a Simlish version of one of their songs for one of the games or something, and it's bizarre. This is going to be one of the first, hopefully, valid lap times we're going to see, though. Sean Dickinson.
He parks it right after the line.
Yeah, because he wants to get into the pits, get new tyres on, and be able to get around on an outlap, and then one more flying lap, which you're only just going to be able to fit in. You see that an outlap and a flying lap has taken until just before the halfway point of the session. So now he's got to aim to repeat that and just beat the checkered flag with his final flying run.
Not quite in the Alps out here, but we're a pair of skis at the top with Krasowski and Osowski. They've been split, though. Martin Crisp living up to his practice speed in P2, and Karl Modoff in P3. Elliott White, I think he's already realized that this lap is kind of a write-off, so he's going to set up the exit of the bus stop and get a better run here on the front straight. He'll go around for one more lap. Karl Modoff, he's not going for the split qualifying strategy. He went for one fast lap, and it looks like he's going for another one right after.
Yeah, looking at these sectors, and he still improves in his first sector, which goes from the timing line through La Source over Drayon and down the Camel Straight. Now you got here, and got to be careful with those track limits. The exit of the right-hander. We know that probably one of the most difficult places is the left-hander here at No Name. Gets a bit of the curb on the way in. It upsets the car a little bit, but he keeps it within bounds, but he's dropped a tenth to his best lap there. He needs a little bit of correction through Kuon, as you've got this great angle of what his steering inputs are as well, and how smooth or sometimes not smooth they look. Sometimes a little reactive through the fast corners, trying to chase where the car is going.
A little bit of an absence there. A little bit of an absence for Karl Modoff in the PRL over the past couple of seasons. Didn't see much of him in 2022, but before that, he was one of the titans of GT3 action, and he's still living up to that. And I think part of the thing that helps him so much on iRacing here in the PRL and elsewhere with Delta Sport, this guy's an instructor at Speed Vegas. So when everybody goes for their supercar experiences in Las Vegas, when they try to take it around the tracks, this is the guy who has to be in the car with them. So I think that means he fears nothing.
Got a great wide angle webcam to show us those biceps. So I reckon when he says you got to lift out at this cone and brake at the next cone, people listen up.
It's a very authoritative name. Like I'm always going to listen to a guy named Karl Modoff. That's a very authoritative name.
I'm going to listen to him for everything but investment advice.
Oh dear. We won't get into that. We won't get into our old buddy Bernie. You can't really trust people named Bernie in racing anyway. With our other old buddy, who's didn't our old buddy Bernie Eck get fined in Belgium? Isn't that where he's in trouble, or is that Germany?
I don't know. It's the only thing I can think of is that he is practically prehistoric, and he recently fathered a child who's like 4 and will therefore like your dad's gonna guarantee to be dead by the time you're a teenager. That doesn't sound like responsible fatherhood to me at all. That's what I keep thinking about with Bernie Eccleston. I'm like, that is just such a weird choice. First of all, you're never gonna get to see your child grow up, and then your child's never gonna have a damn father.
If the Eccleston family is watching, how are you doing, everybody? We're glad you're tuning in. Somehow I doubt that isn't happening as John Antonino crosses the line. He's going to be down in P26, unfortunately for him. Boris Ovando in another car that's always so easy to pick out, the bright baby blue Lamborghini. Another driver who had it all go wrong a couple of weeks ago, fighting for the win at the Red Bull Ring in the season opener. I believe he spun all on his lonesome and threw away the podium. Actually, it may have been an issue on pit entry if I'm misremembering. Either way, he's back on a clean slate here in Spa, and he's got a baby blue car with the baby blue sky.
I'm watching these sector times, and for Modoff, there's not a lot of improvement coming in. Morales has just set a pretty good one there. Dickinson goes to fifth, and that's going to be the final lap of qualifying for all of those drivers. So who can squeak in one late on? And I'm not spying many purple sectors, but there is a handful of drivers with a lot of self-improvement, a lot of green sectors out there, and that includes Boris Angel Ovando here. Just got to very precisely navigate that final sector. I reckon we're tracking for an improvement here.
Here comes Boris Ovando to the line. It's a pretty big improvement, a 2:16.0 from P9 to P3 right as the clock ends. Mark Stevenson won't get a chance to improve, but Boris Ovando timed that perfectly. He'll start from P3, but it's Daniel Krasowski up front ahead of Martin Crisp. It's a pair of Lamborghinis at the head of the field. It's a trio of Lamborghinis, actually, with Boris Ovando, and Carl Modoff in his trusty Audi starts P4. Diego Morales is here for one of his part-time races this season. He starts P5 alongside yet another Lamborghini of Mr. Sean Dickinson. Raymond Yip for Blue Chip is P7. Our championship leader, Elliot White, is P8. Jeremy Gonsalves and Andres Espinoza round out the top 10. Ethan Asowski, P11 for Forge Racing, starts alongside Nathan Bartley. And lucky P13 goes to who else but Australia's own Zach Kerr. He starts alongside Connor Wagner in P14. Blake Zede, an AM driver, outqualifies a ton of pros in P15. He starts alongside Caleb Lehman. Alex Caruso, who's been promoted to pro, starts P17 alongside good old Nick McLaughlin in his Ferrari. Miguel Angel Fonseca in pro, last season's AM champion, is P19 alongside P2 in AM, Mark Stevenson. Floyd Kerr, unrelated to Zach Kerr despite their related team status, starts P21 alongside Danny Lafleur, and Theodore Lowendick starts P23 alongside Jennifer McDonald, who is currently in the top 10 in the championship. James Walker for Total Downforce Racing, P25 alongside Nathan Deering. Joshua Spears, unrelated to Brittany, starts alongside the F3 AM champion from 2 seasons ago, Ryan Pucktel. Kwok Nin, yet another AM driver, starts along Vicente Sepulveda. P31 went to Noah Anderson. P32 went to Turner Schroll, who won the season opener. John Antonino, P33. David Mendonca, former Supreme Court Justice William Brennan, and Nicholas Larson round out the top 36. But the hits keep on coming. Sean Carmody, P37. Darren Rutherford, Giambattista Giacchetti, Greg Conway, David Lamont, and Downtown Gary Brown bring us down to 42nd. Thomas Dunn, Romaf Foe, Jeff Carollo, Chase Brown, Cedric Nevu, and Brett Thurman to bring us down to 48th. And the final page of the grid. Christopher Rhines, David Morse, Mathieu Denis, and John Barry were the last drivers to get qualifying laps in. Gonzalo Cortez did not get a qualifying lap in. He'll start from the back of the field. And Matthew Thunhorst for Forge Racing will start shotgun on the field in P54. Oh my goodness, 104 cars across 2 races tonight, David. I don't know how my larynx is going to recover from this.
I get dizzy when I gotta read too many things. That's just me. That's just me. So I wonder if that occurs any relation to Australian national women's soccer team striker Sam Kerr. I'm third cousin of Australian cricket team batsman Travis Head. We've never met and he doesn't know I exist, but we're about to get racing at Spa. Oh,
Travis,
that's
if you're
early
watching,
jump from your pole sitter. He's out of here.
Very early jump, just like that cricketer, and it is a huge lead already for Daniel Krasowski as everybody files through the bus stop. Some drivers haven't even gotten the green flag yet, and Krasowski's already to La Source. Martin Crisp slots in line. Ovando and Modoff side by side through turn 1. It's a frenetic start always here at Spa, but that one was especially frenetic.
He said 54 cars. I'm out of here. Let's spread this field all the way around the lap, and it's a great start up front. A little bit of drama in La Source at the tail end of the field. Morales. Drama at the top of Radion.
Diego Morales is around at the top of the hill. A part-time season for him. It's going to be full-time sadness for him tonight. It doesn't look like he hit anything especially badly. But there is the pile-up. Track is completely blocked on the Kemmel Straight. Miguel Angel Fonseca pokes through. I think Connor Wagner might have been involved, but they're still piling in. One of the Forge Racing Lamborghinis almost gets collected. That is absolute destruction in the back of the field. Elliot White, our championship leader, involved. Jeremy Gonsalves, Andres Espinoza, Nathan Bartley, Turner Schroll. and they're still piling into the back of the field. Gonzalo Cortez says, you know what? Starting in the back of the field, I might as well get a bite out of that too.
Well, they went a couple of corners further around than F1 did in 97 or 98 before having a track locking pile up. But my goodness, 10 cars involved, and then others just kept plowing into it. And you can see from the shot we had a pit lane how many cars
They're
were
still
involved.
going around.
So treacherous on cold tires.
And that's Zach Kerr, the Kerr name. Not good luck for him here around in the background. And Nathan Deering is the driver who just backed it into the wall. There may be 10 drivers on pit lane now with damage, but I think it might have been more like 30 drivers who were involved in that incident. That was a pileup that we haven't seen in quite a while in the Precision Racing League. Basically, look, and Boris Ovondo's around at Blanchimont, and that Lamborghini explodes in one fell swoop there. That car is not still drivable. He's not going to be able to drive that thing back to the pits. That is destroyed.
He's going to be dizzy and
He is.
doing that one.
Suddenly there's 5 cars up front, and I think they're the only ones who survived without any damage on lap 1.
Yeah, my
Caleb
goodness. There it
Lehman
is.
takes
11
P6
on pit
after
lane.
starting 9 spots down. James Walker has made it up as 20 spots or something. It is just, you basically roll the dice and hope you survive.
Best sauce, because there is a lot of meatballs out there.
Well, we were talking about IKEA earlier, so it's got to be the Swedish meatball gravy.
Yeah. I think they do meatballs with like a cranberry sauce kind of thing. I think I had that.
Lingonberries.
Oh yeah, yum, but not delicious. In fact, very, very tough pill to swallow for all of those drivers that either had to tow onto pit lane, or I think I've seen 5 have driven back around into pit lane, presumably with significant damage or meatballs.
I don't know if lingonberry is one of the 23 flavors in Dr. Pepper, but either way, Ted Lowendick in the Dr. Pepper Audi, he's definitely taken some crunches to the side of that car. I don't know if he made it through cleanly in that lap 1 cloud of cars. I know we're probably testing the limits of the production PCs here at RaceSpot to find everything that happened in that incident, but Ted Lowendick was especially slow on the straight there, so he has to have some damage, but I can't diagnose which one of the corners on that car really got any damage from it.
It is bizarre. Sometimes you don't see much panel damage, but the suspension in one of the corners has taken a hit wrong and broken. And then occasionally you see a lot of body damage on a car, and if all 4 wheels are still pointing straight, then it hasn't lost too much pace. So it becomes difficult with just our eyes to diagnose the damage sometimes.
In the midst of that all, Darren Rutherford has taken over the lead in the AM class over Giambattista Giacchetti, and Nathan Deering, who we saw backwards at Puhan on lap 1, backing it into the tire wall, he's found himself on the podium in AM just by having a car that still rolls.
Amazing. Yeah. 36 still out on circuit from 54 cars that took that start, but it's still shaping up for a good race when you look at the front of the field here and managing the slipstream, staying in touch, and doing 2:16s while they're at it.
Here we go. We've got it loaded up. This is Diego Morales. First of all, somehow, I think he might have actually got a lucky break here because he went around, and then that's what kicked it all off. He clipped Elliott White in that Audi. Diego didn't get the worst of it, but the driver who he clipped, Elliott White, really kicked off everything there as he couldn't get out of the way. He got clipped by Morales, bounced off the wall, and then literally everybody behind P6 piles in.
A lot of smoke in the air. You can drive through it. Well, a lot couldn't. I love this white Lamborghini that's being so patient, and then the drivers behind are not having any of it in that one. And you saw the Audi gets clipped. It skates across the grass, and there's also not just been changes to the cars and their tires, but to the grass as well, where you sink into it. It's so slipperier than it used to be, and that certainly didn't help the Audi to recover between the arm cone.
What's especially confusing is that Zach Kerr and Floyd Kerr have no relation, but they do drive for the same team. They drive for two different flavors of the team there. Zach Kerr drives for Maine Delta Sport. Floyd Kerr drives for the Academy team at Race Factory. It was actually Floyd Kerr who was involved in the incident on lap 1 with whoever survived, Nathan Deering. Zach Kerr, he's still okay. That Lamborghini looks pretty clean to me, so for any fans of Zach Kerr, for any distant cricket-related family members or soccer-related family members, Zach Kerr's still okay. He's just down to P11.
Still, at this point in the race, a couple of laps in, a big handful of cars that don't have clean lap to their names. In W run wide at the exit of Blanchimont there. That's one way you can do it. You go off track on your lap, and it doesn't count as a clean lap. It doesn't count to the fastest laps. That's an incident point. This is going to be a view and a half.
I believe this
How
is...
do you know where to go?
I believe this is Andres Oh, there was definitely a clip there. I think that was Andres Espinoza who made it through in that Ferrari. No, that was Caleb Lehman. That was Caleb Lehman, who's currently P6. And you just saw his journey of survival to P6. I have to imagine that any of the other onboards we could have selected from that incident wouldn't be quite as pretty. Hopefully we get to see Ted Lowendick in the epicenter. I think he was like the eye of the hurricane there, and based on his spot in the field. And somehow that documentary car's still rolling.
I want Caleb as my Uber driver because he always picks the lane that's got the least traffic.
It was very impressive driving. Send in your job application to whatever, black cabs in London. You can skip the knowledge. Just show them you made it through that. You'll be fine.
You can drive my limo to prom.
Caleb, you can drive my car. That was less than 15 seconds. I don't think that's copyrighted, but there was a little bit of bowling right there coming down the hill there into Bruxelles between the Ferraris and the Lamborghinis. They're still finding ways. Even though we've kind of decimated a solid percentage of this field, there's still a few drivers who are still getting the elbows out, still trying to fight for the couple of spots here on the podium in AM, actually. This is what all of this is over. That's Giambattista Giacchetti in the Ferrari. I guess fitting, the Italian driver in the Ferrari behind Darren Rutherford. And then Nathan Deering on his little recovery drive as well right behind.
Yeah, not seen many Porsches today, have we? But there's one in the hands of Thomas Dunn. So we'll see where the strengths do and don't lie for that machine. Been quite dominant in past with its good handle on the tyres. It's nice to the front ones because there's not much weight on them. It's nice to the rear ones because it doesn't spin them up.
That was the car to have last season, but after those changes in between the seasons, as always happens on iRacing, there's BOP changes. Everything fell apart for the Porsche. There's still a couple out there, like you said, the couple fighting for the last couple of spots in Pro here. But Connor Wagner, who is probably going to be a competitive Porsche, he was out on lap 1. Chase Brown got damage on lap 1 in the Porsche. Nathan Bartley got damage on lap 1 in the Porsche. Downtown Gary Brown, who's always spectacular in the Porsche, he was out. A lot of trouble, a lot of bad luck on lap 1 as we ride on board here with Nathan Deering in VR. A couple of die casts there on the shelf. Can't really differentiate any of them. I think there's a Jeff Gordon and a Dale Earnhardt there. Maybe a little bit of luck there, a little bit of a golden horseshoe.
I'm going crazy. Is that yellow one a Nissan 400Z thing?
I don't know, but Giambattista Giacchetti, while I was focused on the diecast, while I was focused on the Rainbow Warriors, Giambattista Giacchetti sent the dive on Darren Rutherford. Nathan Deering gets Darren Rutherford as well. It's a 2-for-1 special, but in the opposite direction for Darren Rutherford. He was in first about 3 seconds ago, and Giambattista Giacchetti just put the stunt on him.
Yeah, big shake-up at the end of the straight. So, some good moves there, no doubt. Porsche gets a position.
James Walker for Total Downforce Racing, one of those drivers who I mentioned survived that calamity on lap 1. He probably shouldn't have. He was right in the epicenter of it all, but he found his way through, and now he's been given a gift with the driver with the most spatial awareness of anybody, apparently, Caleb Lehman. Suddenly, he's found himself wheel-to-wheel with Mr. James Walker. Very strong driver in anything you put him in. I've seen this guy win races in Indy cars and stock cars and basically anything you put him in on this platform. He's going to be competitive, and Caleb Lehman sees a lot of red polygons in his rearview mirror.
Audi looks good, but it just doesn't seem to have the straight line pace. He couldn't get down the inside at the bus stop. Didn't seem to out-drag down the pit straight. What about, should be a pretty flat-out run from the source all the way up the hill and to Lacombe Melmedy.
Walker in the draft here, down the Kemmel Straight. Is he going to go for the dive, or is he going to think about some of the strategies from the previous race and maybe stick behind Caleb Lehman, save a little bit of fuel? Well, you just got your answer immediately there. He dives it to the inside of Caleb Lehman. Caleb's not going to fight that too hard. I think he knows the pace of Mr. James Walker. Walker's booked himself up into P6, and suddenly he sees 10 seconds of clean track ahead of him. He's got quite the journey to catch Raymond Yip, but he does have 27 minutes to do it.
Now we'll see if the fuel strategy is even more complex for these guys in this race as well, because there was a bit of variation earlier, and a question mark till the very end about exactly when the white flag would come out, and you're never quite sure. And that factors into how much fuel you got to take. Takes a bit of fuel to get around if there is an extra lap. This 7 kilometers of Spa.
Nathan Deering's gotten back by Giambattista Giacchetti. This Lamborghini Ferrari battle for the lead in AM. Nathan Deering has gotten by, and based on the distance he's pulled between himself and Giacchetti, I have to imagine there was a little bit of a mistake from Giacchetti, because you put a blanket again over those top 3 in AM a couple moments ago. But Nathan Deering with a damaged Lamborghini, he's pulling away for the moment. Here we go.
Your wish is Hugo's command. And he straightened him up.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nathan Deering. Thanks for the help.
It's like a tugboat on a cruise ship. They're like, nose needs to come around towards the dock, straighten that up. Off you go.
So we've had 3 different leaders in AM here. All the 3 drivers fighting on the podium, they've all decided to take turns at, who's going to make the mistake in the lead this time? Who's going to go for the dive this time? This time it is Nathan Deering who gets the lead, but we do tune back into the lead in AM as well. While everything else has been going on in this field, these guys have just been kind of looking in their rear view mirror. I'm sure they saw that pile up and said, hey, that's going to be less traffic for us. I think things might go pretty well for us. And Krasowski, Crisp, and Modoff, they've been stuck together just like this since the green flag.
PRL drivers sure do love wearing hats indoors. It's a face of focus, but not necessarily tension here, because you know that if you just stay with the leaders here, you're a leading trio pulling away from the rest of the field. You're positioning yourself well to execute a good pit strategy potentially, and you kind of sit here where if you make no mistakes, your worst case scenario is 3rd and your best case is the win, and that is a good range of values to be shooting for if you just keep it within the lines, keep it clean, and stay with the leading trio here.
Points do only go down to P30 in the Precision Racing League, so some of those drivers who did get into trouble, they haven't rejoined the field because they're multiple laps down. They probably don't have any likelihood of getting back in the top 30 because we still have 32 cars running. But a lot of drivers have come back out to try and pick up the pieces if there is more trouble. Former Supreme Court Justice William Brennan, he's back out there. Connor Wagner, Miguel Angel Fonseca, Romain Faux, Turner Schroll. They've all finished their damage repairs in the pits. They're still 3 laps down, but they're going to try and bring it to the finish at the very least and just hope they can inch into the top 30 and pick up a couple of extra points if they can.
No, Gianchetti.
No, Giambattista Giacchetti in the Ferrari is around again. We saw him have that understeer moment into no name a little bit earlier, but this time, I don't think he had Nathan Deering to straighten him out.
Oh,
Bam.
that is a Mamma Mia moment. Rear of the Ferrari just not wanting to stay planted in the quick corners, it seems. He lost it in no name, and then he's lost it around there at Paul Freya. And a really, really long slide before it hit the wall as well, and he just couldn't get grip to steer out of it.
And that might be one of those drivers who opens up the top 30 a little bit. The first driver outside of the top 30 who's running is Connor Wagner. So if Giacchetti does have some damage to get fixed, maybe that's how Connor Wagner does get back into the top 30. Unfortunately for Connor, though, Giacchetti is still out there on track. He's in a heavily damaged car, but he's still rolling. Blake Ziti for the Long Island Racing Team. Remember, he was your pole sitter in AM. Got caught up in whatever the heck happened on lap 1. Again, though, doesn't look like that's a heavily damaged car. Blake Ziti might have fallen about 6 seconds behind the leader in checking up for everything, but his race has just been revived. Blake Ziti is back in the oven. And as I say that, Karl Modoff, the first driver in that threesome at the head of the field, he's finally made a mistake and he's fallen out of it. He's fallen outside of the top 6 now. I think he might have taken a... Oh, no, just kidding. False alarm. False alarm.
Aww.
Karl Modoff is okay.
Because we were on board with technology. He had a wiggle here at the bus stop a lap ago as he turned into this right-hander. You can get very loose across that little crest right as the change of direction happens as well. He manages a lot better this lap, but his internet might have had a bit of a wiggle as well.
Yeah, apparently his webcam also froze, so yeah, there was definitely a little bit of trouble in Karl Modoff land. If he is... I don't know if he's a permanent resident of Las Vegas. I don't know if he just drives in to do his coaching at Speed Vegas, but if he is, maybe they need to do a little bit of internet work there in the desert. Lay some more cables.
Yeah, I mean, you can't be far away from, you know, some good connection to some Boston and California servers. One of our earlier pit goers here.
Jennifer McDonald is in. That's interesting. We are about halfway in the race, so this is about when you'd expect the pit window to open. It is going to be an interesting dynamic, though, because even though there are a lot of drivers who have disconnected from the session, they're not sitting in the pits getting their damage repaired. There's still going to be some dead cars in those pit stalls, and with a 54-car field, a lot of these drivers are sharing pit stalls with other drivers, so that's going to be something to think about when you do come into your pit box. You're going to have to adjust to there being a ghost car in front of you as well.
It says 42 pit stalls, so yeah, a bunch of them that get shared. What happens is your pole sitter gets the prime spot at pit exit, and then in grid order all the way down to 42nd, and then it starts looping around. So your 43rd qualifier will be sharing the stall with the pole sitter. So actually, if you qualified between about 20th and 42nd, you're not sharing the stall, but if you qualified up front, you are. I'd probably loop it around at the tail of the field rather than going back up to the front. But I'm not Barney.
You're not Barney the Flagman. You're not virtual Michael Massey, unfortunately, but maybe it's a little bit of
I reckon he's got a lot of cousins.
He probably does have a lot of cousins. It's a little bit of rubber banding. You know, the leaders, they qualified on pole. Might as well take them down a notch, make them struggle a little bit.
So Poppy Syndrome's alive and well in 2023. Now, 3 cars for the lead are still our 3 for the lead.
There's kind of a Belgian train here. I imagine they have pretty good high-speed rail in Belgium. They probably have the Eurostar making its way through, but this is rivaling that. Krasowski, Crisp, and Modoff None of them really have any interest in racing each other, that tends to be how the meta of these races go. Everybody in the first stint, they ride in line, they save their stuff. The guys in second and third try to save as much fuel as possible to make the jump in the pit stop. And then after that, it all kicks off.
Oh yeah, they got L1 and L2 in Belgium. L1 connects Brussels with the Eurostar, and L2 connects them towards Germany and Cologne. We're probably closer to L2 in this part of Belgium.
Those are kind of two different ends of the smell spectrum, by the way. Brussels and Cologne. So you gotta make sure you know which one you're going to. Although, you know, some roasted Brussels sprouts, those things smell pretty good. Alex Caruso, by the way, sniffing at a move there on Caleb Lehman. Not able to make it work. Ryan Pucktel as well is in this train. Zach Kerr is kind of falling off. He might have a little bit of damage, but he's still in the top 10. A little bit of a mistake through Pouan, though. Alex Caruso's got to run on Caleb Lehman. I don't think he's going to send a dive here. He pokes to the inside. He says, hey, Caleb Lehman, I'm here. But, of course, Caleb Lehman, the taxi driver extraordinaire, he's not bothered by a little bit of aggressive traffic.
Oh, I think, you know, once you've had that kind of skill and that kind of luck, you're going to feel pretty bulletproof. That is boop.
That is a self-punishing boot from Blake Ziti, though. He got into the back of Brett Thurman, and the only person who suffered for it was Blake Ziti himself. But here comes the dive again. Alex Caruso wide at Blanchimont. Tried to follow Lehman through, but didn't quite work out for him. He's going to send it again. Lehman blocks into the bus stop, and he's able to get it slowed down, and he also decides to go for the pit stop. He says, you know what, I don't want to get killed by Caruso here. I might as well come down pit lane here, get out of traffic, and hope that Caleb, or rather hope that Ryan Pucktel gets to fighting with Caruso and slows him down.
Yeah, interesting pit strategy in that way. Get yourself out of traffic potentially. And like you said, we're using the Grand Prix pits, not the endurance pits here. So pitting a little bit early is less likely to feed you back into some traffic and some slower cars on this pit configuration than it would be on the endurance pits where it, you know, it's going to cost you a minute. Here, the lane transit time is about 20. Where we're taking, you know, give or take that sort of 15-ish seconds of fuel. So you probably won't end up in as much traffic with this quicker pit lane that we're using.
Will this be the lap that our friends up front decide to come down pit lane? That will be the question. Giambattista Giacchetti also pitted on the previous lap. He came in with Caleb Lehman. That is 3 drivers out of the top 30 that have decided to pit. So still potentially early days, but we'll see once everybody decides to come in. I imagine the rest of the field will follow them in. Also some updates. Chase Brown is back out on track. He's gotten his damage repaired. Former Supreme Court Justice William Brennan has also gotten his damage repaired. He's back out on track. And Danny Lafleur, after 17 minutes and 32 seconds of repairs, he's back out on track as well.
Yay.
I feel like they probably, in 17 minutes and 30 seconds, you can take the whole engine out, put a whole new one in, and you'll be good.
Oh, I feel good about changing brake pads in an hour.
There's some good virtual mechanics over at the Ferrari PRL team. They can do an engine swap in 17 minutes. It's remarkable.
Whoa, there used to be a railway line that ran along parallel to the pit straight here.
Is it still there? I guess it does make sense. You know, look up on the top of the hill. There could very well be a railway line there. There's still a railway line going on the track here, but choo-choo they go. I'm looking for the train tracks in the background now.
Well, part of Knock Hill used to be a railway alignment before they then laid down a bit of racetrack on it. So That's far closer than ever was here. Our leaders are still out, but a lot of the cars behind them are pitting, and you can see sort of second, third, fourth from the AM class opting to pit now as well. So it's probably just about time for our leaders at the end of this lap too. Busy place, that pit lane right now.
Yeah, fuel's starting to get a little bit skint here. Brett Thurman's in, Blake Zeedy's in, Darren Rutherford, Cedric Nevu, Mathieu Denis. Here we go, off of pit lane. Brett Thurman, is he going to be able to beat Cedric Nevu off? Well, Cedric Nevu's still in his box, so yes is the answer. But Blake Zeedy makes it out. He's about 4 seconds behind his old buddy Brett Thurman. He's got some progress to make up, and he's actually got a lapped car in between him and Thurman. Still waiting on Nathan Deering to come in, but Darren Rutherford is in control of second place for the moment, while Nathan Deering keeps pedaling around. Darren Rutherford just tries to maximize this outlap.
Interesting to hear from some of our drivers after the earlier race that even if they don't change the tires, the pit stop, the cool off, the extra weight of the fuel does have a noticeable impact on the handling of the car as well. So yeah. Oh, hello. I was about to say, here come all our leaders, but here come just 2 of them. Modoff, has he saved enough as he was following almost the entirety of the race so far?
I think they were trying to get out of lapped traffic, but suddenly they found themselves directly behind the lapped car there who's coming down pit lane. That's Chase Brown in that Precision Racing Esports Porsche. That's actually a drive-through, so Chase Brown will stay out of the way. He must have hit the 13 incident point limit. But Krasowski's in, Crisp is in, Yip is in, Dickinson's in, James Walker is in, Ryan Pucktel stays out. So Pucktel and Modoff, an Audi and a Porsche, both able to go one more lap, but we're starting to reach those last couple of droplets of fuel. So here comes Nathan Deering. He's going to be in. Everybody else in his class is in. Now we see where the Nathan Deering blend's going to be.
Could get pretty close for those drivers who've opted to go another lap longer. When you commit to going longer, it is a big lap that you've committed to. If you run out of fuel halfway around, you are going to be in big trouble. It's not like the lap of bleak Indianapolis where if you run out of fuel between 2 and 3, you can maybe coast it around to the pit lane still.
Now Krasowski and Crisp have to think here. We can't fight right now. If we fight, Karl Modoff passes us both. So Martin Crisp is exercising a little bit of willpower, something that most of us don't have with Crisps, and he's not passing Krasowski.
Yeah, interesting. Certainly very interesting. Is Modoff able to push on this lap, though? Because suddenly he's got no slipstream for the first time in a while, and have to be very confident in that number to go hell for leather. And your in-lap has got to be quick if you're going to try to do this kind of overcut. It's really got to pull everything out of the bag on this lap right here on his way to pit entry.
Here comes Karl Modoff. He's on the racetrack right now, but now it is mode off. He pulls into pit lane here, and now it's the waiting game. It's going to be the longest pit lane in Karl Modoff's life as he scrapes a little bit of the red Delta Sport paint off the car on the pit wall there. Isn't going to get any damage from that, though. Now we wait. It's about a 30-second pit delta. Do have to remember that it's a little bit shorter than that in reality because you're not stopped for all of that time, and you do get to cut turn 1. Modoff brings it down into his stall. There are no destroyed BMWs in his stall anymore, which is good. It's about 10.8 seconds for Krasowski, 11.1 seconds for Crisp. How long will Modoff be sat in his box? It's 11 seconds, about equal with Martin Crisp. Here's the blend.
Well, you can tell it's going to be close. Those cars are on the racing line at racing speed, and I think he's going to get beaten. He might have to slot into the middle here for Eau Rouge Radion.
Modoff right in the middle of the sandwich. He has made one jump, though. He was behind Martin Crisp, remember, when he stopped. Now the gloves are off, though. 9 minutes 30 left to go. About 5 laps to go in this race. Fuel savings out the window. It is every driver for themselves here. They've all got the fuel to make it to the finish. Modoff to the outside of Krasowski into the Lake Calm for the first time. He's going for the move. But again, it's a switchback series of corners. He has the inside now. It becomes the outside coming down the hill. Krasowski in the Lamborghini fights back, but Modoff is clear.
He rides a lot of that curb. The Audis have struggled with it, but he holds on to it, and now it's battle on for the drivers behind as well, and he'll love to see that in his mirrors.
Krasowski and Crisp, they were so kind to each other on that outlap. They didn't fight to make sure that Modolf didn't pull away. But now Modolf is in the lead, and Krasowski and Crisp are going to fight over second as Modolf checks off into the sunset. A peek to the inside into Pouon for Martin Crisp, not able to actually think about that move. Can either of these guys catch back up to Modolf, or are they going to be too focused on fighting and become a fight for second?
Well, Modolf's broken a second, and he looks pretty quick through this middle sector here as well. Might be just using up a little bit of those track limits as well to try to make sure he's broken that gap to second and third. He's looking super aggressive on this lap right now, is your leader, as he tries to just eke out a couple more tenths himself to Krasowski in the Lamborghini in second, and then, of course, Martin Crisp right underneath his rear wing.
Here comes Martin Crisp through Blanchimont. Is he going to go for the dive, or is he going to ride back in line? He peeks to the outside. Krasowski blocks it off. Crisp peeks to the inside now. Not able to go for the move, and Krasowski made up about 0.4 of a second on Modolf there under braking. Modolf might have a second lead right now, but I think Krasowski definitely has the pace to make that gap back up. That Lamborghini is so strong on the brakes, into the hairpins, into the bus stop. He might be within draft range now.
Dynamics of the two cars should be pretty similar with the same engine in the same position, but it does seem like the Lamborghini is better with the slower corners and the Audi with the quick corners. And once you're out of the source and the bus stop, you're kind of done with some of the slow corners.
Side by side, Noah Anderson for Upright Motorsports, and a couple of our AM drivers. I believe that's Blake Zeedy trying to fight for the podium here. Zeedy's lost touch completely with Darren Rutherford, about 4 seconds between them two, so Zeedy's likely going to be fighting for the podium as there's a spin, and around goes Jennifer McDonald at La Source. The BMW just loops around. She keeps it out of the wall, though, keeps it pointed in a straight line. It's a little bit of a lazy spin at turn one, though.
Rear letting go for the apex of the corner. How powerful is that slipstream down the Kemmel Straight?
Nick McLaughlin versus Caleb Lehman. This is the first time in a while, I think, that we've really talked about Nick McLaughlin fighting in the top 10. He had a hellish season last season. He'd be the first person to admit, after winning the AM Championship 2 seasons ago, got promoted to pro last season, had the worst season, I think, ever in his PRL career. But we're in 2023. He's got the Ferrari again, the car he was so successful in the PRL Ferrari Challenge 3 seasons ago. And his luck has turned around. He survived the lap 1 chaos, and suddenly he sees a top 10 right in front of him.
Indeed, both of them with their personal best lap of the race and the lap just completed. So they're finding their stride in the prancing horses as the track is pretty much the same temperature it was for qualifying, was for the start of the race. Very stable conditions. So I guess it's just the fuel burn as they go and the confidence.
And your eyes do not deceive you. Your googly eyes don't deceive you as well, with Caleb Lehman with that Saturn V in the background. Big fan of that. But that We Race Esports Lamborghini with that bright green accent. Remember lap 1 when Diego Morales looped it at the top of the hill and collected Elliott White and caused that whole accident? Well, he suddenly found himself back in P12. He's recovered. He's got no damage. Diego Morales is driving back up through the order.
Yeah, and he's flying. There's only a couple cars in the 2-minute 16s. It's your top 5. It's Ryan Puchtel in 7th. And it's Diego Morales down in 12th. So he's got pace over the next handful of cars in front of him. He's caught them in the slipstream, and I think he's got just enough time left in this race, just enough more laps to make a couple of those positions up.
Diego won
he
here.
Still get to 8th. I think Morales can still get to 8th in this race.
I think that's a pretty reasonable assumption, because he did win here a couple of seasons ago. That was his last PRL win, I believe. So clearly a driver who's kind of mastered Spa here, and that's going to be a little bit worrying for Nick McLaughlin, who just wants to hang on to a top 10 for once. It's going to be worrying for Caleb Lehman. Vicente Sepulveda has had the best race of his PRL season as well in the top 10. But suddenly they see a driver who legitimately should be fighting for this win right behind him. And I think we've had trouble for Darren Rutherford in second and AM. He's looped it around. Blake Ziti's been promoted back onto the podium, or back into second rather. Brett Thurman's back on the podium. Darren Rutherford is on pit lane.
Damage to the front right of that Audi is kind of the telltale sign. Was there any before that? There's definitely some after that. That will do it.
That will indeed do it for Darren Rutherford. That was Darren Rutherford, and he's not coming out again, I think, after this. There's still 3 minutes left in this race, and we've seen some 3, 6, 17-minute repair jobs. I think Darren Rutherford might be a spectator for the rest of the night.
Maths is a lot simpler on this race. It's definitely 2 laps to go as they've crossed the line just now. They had more time on the clock than the 2 minutes 16 that the leaders are doing, but not much more. They'll get this lap. They'll get the white flag. They'll race to the end, and for Karl Modolf out front, it is just so close. Whether he's broken the slipstream or not to second or third, he will be so thankful for the battling that Krasowski and Crisp have done that have just prevented them from reeling him back in and giving him a big headache for the final couple of laps.
Krasowski's brought the gap down. That Lamborghini is pretty slippery in a straight line. It was about 0.7 of a second under braking into Les Combes, but again, as you pointed out earlier, the fast corners, that's where the Audi tends to be very, very strong, and he just slowly pulls away and pulls away. I think Krasowski needs to be within about half a second, and he makes a mistake coming into Bruxelles. That's going to open the door for Martin Crisp. And Dan Krasowski, if he had any shot at winning the race, I think he might have just thrown it away with that one mistake.
Yeah, there you go. Loses the time. Gets Modolf off the hook. This Krasowski versus Crisp battle. Looks like it's going to be for second, third, and not for the win unless Modolf has a wiggle and a bobble in the Audi like we saw not long ago from ZT, wasn't it? Not ZT, who dropped from second to promote ZT.
Darren Rutherford. And also, I remember back to the fixed race a little bit earlier with the 2 Michaels. Both of them were in race leading positions, and they threw it off the road from their comfortable position. So the race isn't won until it's over, but Karl Modolf is probably in the least uncomfortable position of this race. He's got 1.7 seconds back to Crisp and Krasowski. Does Crisp decide to send a dive here now that he knows that the race lead is probably off the table? He doesn't brake especially late to the outside. He's going to try and do a little bit of a switchback here at the bus stop. He knows second place is on the cards. Karl Modolf trying to go for a victory lap now and hope that 1.7 second gap stays alive.
And you see the white flag at the line there, letting our drivers know this is the final lap of the race. Your last opportunity for glory, or whatever the opposite of glory is in a racing driver's mind.
I'm thinking about that. I was breaking out my anti-thesaurus there, and I don't know, the opposite of glory, infamy.
5 minute longer race this one, but still just a 13 incident limit.
Here comes Crisp. He sends it to the inside into Les Combes. A little bit of contact there with Krasowski, I think. Martin's not able to get by. Krasowski hangs on, but that was certainly a last lap lunge for Martin Crisp.
Yeah, and Krasowski, held it, was maybe ready for that little hip check and said, well, you're not getting through at the next apex there on that one. Move like that. So I keep my eye out on some of these drives on the track limits, because if you get pushed wide, or heaven forbid a little tap like that gives you 4x and it puts you over the incident limit, it's going to cost you big, because now on the final lap you're not going to be able to serve it as a drive through. It'll be even more punishing with 40 seconds or so getting automatically added post race. So you do not want to overstep. You do not want to get into contact on this final lap. Think how many drivers might have picked up 4 incident points on the first lap on the Kemmel straight as well.
is a race that started with absolute calamity. It was a picture that we normally only see.
Got a black flag.
Oh dear, it was a picture we normally see at places like Dover in NASCAR, but we had our own pileup here. Karl Modoff, finally back in the Precision Racing League after a year off, the winningest driver in PRL GT3 history. He's about to win his 30th race in the PRL, fighting off Krasowski, fighting off Martin Crisp. Karl Modoff wins at Spa. Krasowski and Crisp, they put on a show for second, but that's all it's going to be for them, second and third. Nathan Deering, quite a bit further down the road in P18. He'll be coming to us in a couple of seconds. He's going to be our winner in AM most likely, but he's got to fight off Ted Lowendick, who's a pro first.
And again, what you can't afford here is contact or a spin or the track limits on the final lap here. Le Mans had a spin, gave him 2x for the loss of control, and that's what's going to cost him big time in the number 42 Ferrari. So that's got to be on your mind here. But if you let the pro through, you do give up some points.
Here is what happened to Caleb Lehman, just loops it around, and Nick McLaughlin, of course, I was mentioning how he finally had some good luck. Of course, he had to have a little bit of bad luck there. Ted Lowendick does get back by Nathan Deering, but Nathan knows he has a cushion of about 4 seconds back to Blake Ziti, and with his diecast, with his record collection, Nathan Deering wins for the first time in the Precision Racing League as well. He takes the victory in AM, bringing it home in P18. Blake Ziti, I believe, will become the AM championship leader with the bad luck for Turner Schroll tonight. Brett Thurman will be third in AM as well after a whole host of chaos in this race. John Battista Giacchetti, you can see him just in the background as well, fought for the win in the Ferrari. He'll bring it home in an unfortunate P5, and he'll probably get ready to go to bed in Club Italy there, but oh my goodness, that's going to be a screenshot that we probably save for the end of the season, because it's been a very long time since we've had a pile-up like that in the Precision Racing League.
Yeah, and not exactly where you might have expected it either. A little further around the lap than I thought for peak pile-up. Hey, that looks a lot like the turbocharged Huracans that you see getting around, and they take off the rear clip to fit some turd skis.
Yeah, speaking of Turner Schroll, here he comes. He's not going to get any points for this because he's finishing 37th on the road, but that's grit, that's determination. Turner Schroll finishes 37th and at least brings it home after quite a bit of damage repair there. But Karl Modoff wins the duel and wins at Spa over Dan Krasowski and Martin Crisp. Raymond Yip, solid result for him for Blue Chip P4, and Sean Dickinson makes it a SimCity Racing 3 and 5. James Walker, solid race from him in P6. Ryan Pucktel finished P7. Zach Kerr survived and finished P8. And Vicente Sepulveda and Diego Morales rounded out the top 10. Diego Morales, maybe not going to be the most popular driver in the field after tonight, but he finishes ahead of his fellow Lamborghini Noah Anderson. Sean Carmody avoided the Carmody of errors and finished P12, right ahead of unlucky 13th. Where else could he finish? Nick McLaughlin. Caleb Lehman was P14. Jennifer McDonald had a little bit of a spin, but still finished P15. And then Josh Spears, Thomas Dunn, and Ted Lowendick rounded out the top 18, which were all pro. Then we get to Nathan Deering and Blake Ziti, your top two in AM, and 21st place went to Matthew Thunhorst, who I believe finished dead last in the field, 54th to 21st for the driver who's going to take on Road to Pro in NASCAR this season, ahead of Alex Caruso. Floyd Kerr was P23, and Brett Thurman was third in AM and 24th overall. Nicholas Larson, John Antonino, Cedric Navu, John Battista Giacchetti, Mathieu Denis, and David Morse rounded out the top 30. No other drivers on the lead lap. We already started to get into the used car lot. Christopher Rhines went one lap down. Darren Rutherford fought for the podium. He's one lap down. And then you get to the drivers who were involved on lap one. Ahem. Connor Wagner, Miguel Angel Fonseca, Romain Foe, William Brennan, Turner Schroll, Chase Brown, Danny LaFleur, John Barry, David Lamont, Mark Stevenson, Jeff Carollo, Boris Ovando, Elliot White, Jeremy Gonsalves, Andres Espinoza, Ethan Osowski, Gonzalo Cortez, Nathan Bartley, Quackton, David Mendonca, Greg Conaway, and downtown Gary Brown. I feel like an auctioneer. Oh my goodness, that was something. But I'm sure there's a very, very happy driver at the head of the field who avoided all of that. Karl Modoff, back in the Precision Racing League in 2023. How on earth did you win that one? That was a heck of a duel between you and Krasowski and Martin Crisp.
Hey guys, yeah, that was fun. That was a really tough race. I'm sort of thankful actually that I didn't qualify on pole. Thought I had some extra pace in the car and I didn't put a great lap together, but I think the top three were all just really close pace-wise, so it's really hard to get away when you're so close on pace around this track. So it was kind of maybe a bit of luck there that I qualified there and was able to kind of sit back and save a bunch of fuel. That I was able to kind of help me jump up the position there and get into a spot where I was able to take the lead after the pit stop. And yeah, just, man, early on, this track just felt super strange, like, especially going to the flat out left before the bus stop, like, I almost lost it a few times. So, once you do that every lap, you're just kind of like, oh, man, please don't crash. But yeah, ultimately, I was able to finally put a full race together and was able to save the fuel, do a good strategy, and run nice pace. And then once I got that gap, I don't know what happened between the two of them after I got by Daniel. They started racing or what, but once I was able to get to a second gap, I was just, happy that I was able to kind of just run perfect laps and not let him get back in my draft. I was able to hold off for the win. So yeah, super stoked about that one.
I don't know if you're aware of this record, but with the win tonight, you are the 5th driver in PRL history to win 30 races. Bradley Holly, Richard Regan Jr., Abner Acosta, your teammate David Holland, and now you, 30 wins.
Hey, I wasn't aware of that. So I'll take that. I noticed that they put together kind of like a list of all-time winners in PRL, and I saw that I was kind of high. So being, one of the top 5 guys to get 30 wins feels pretty good. There's a lot of competition, especially over the seasons. It's gotten harder and harder and harder. To be able to be up there with a lot of those names is a good feeling.
Well, congrats on the win tonight, and it's kind of a turnaround for your season. We'll see you for 7 more weeks, and we'll see if you can add another championship to the Hall of Fame there.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Joey. Thanks, guys. Thanks, broadcasters. Thanks, PRL. Thanks, Delta Sport, and all my teammates. Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Karl Modov, victorious at Spa. Bad news for fans of Nathan Deering, your AM winner. He did get a penalty for, I believe, reaching the incident limit after he crossed the line. And that means that your AM winner is not Nathan Deering. He finishes 4th. Blake Ziti, you finished 2nd on the road, but after the flag, Nathan Deering gets a penalty. You've won it. How did that happen?
Man, that's good news. It feels pretty good. I'll take that one. Yeah, that was a surprise. I think he might have got his last X with Ted Lowendick right at the end there. So,
oh dear.
Yeah, I mean, I feel sorry for him. We're messing each other now. That's a bummer for him, but hey, a win's a win.
Naughty Ted. Talk us through lap 1, because you qualified on pole and AM. I imagine you were involved in whatever happened there. You fell back. Somehow you ended up back on the podium. Talk us through that. Talk us through your journey.
Yeah, just simply ran out of talent. I think I panicked a little bit. Light went green, and I was trying to get myself squared up on the out of the chicane, and it gave her a little too much goose, and she spun her. Yep.
I'm just at a loss for words. There's just so much going on lap 1. I can't imagine anybody else disagrees with me there. But 7 more weeks left in the season. What tracks are you looking forward to? Where do you think we're gonna have a little bit less chaos? What do you think about Silverstone next week? Do us some future projections. Jeez.
It's kind of hard because I'm not familiarized with all the tracks, but yeah, I'll have to see in the future. I don't want to give you guys blow any smoke up you guys. I don't want to go that route and not know what I'm talking about. So we'll set to see. I'll put some laps in. We'll see how we pan out.
I actually had stuffed shells for dinner tonight, but tonight Big Ziti is the winner.
Hey, so thanks guys. I appreciate it.
Congrats, Blake Ziti, on his AM victory after the flag. We do have 2nd place in Pro as well here. Dan Krasowski, he's going to talk to Dav Haynes.
No one has ever called me that before, but welcome. Krasowski, great battle there between the Lamborghinis, just letting the win get away.
Yeah, that didn't go according to plan. First of all, I didn't want to qualify on pole position because I knew what was going to happen. I just wanted to sit back in 2nd or 3rd until the pit stop. And then after the pit stop, I didn't turn off my pit limiter till I was past the cone, so lost like a second there. And then as you can saw, Karl got a great run. And then I really wasn't expecting Martin to try to make a move as well. It was fun actually battling him, but it wasn't really ideal to win for the go for the win. As you saw, Carl just got the 1 second gap, and then it was just impossible. The guy doesn't make any mistakes, so great drive on his behalf.
Very similar cars layout wise, but did you get any sense of maybe where the strengths and weaknesses were for your Lamborghini versus the Audi?
I think Carl was running a little bit more wing than I was. I was a little bit faster on the straight, but he was gaining on me a tenth or two in the corners. So I think he was probably on a wing 3. I'm running wing 2. But otherwise, all weekend officials, the Audi and the Lambo, have been very, very close in performance. So that was fair. I was honestly expecting a Ferrari to be pulling us in draft all race, but it was nice to see the Audi and the Lambo up in front.
Sounds like the pace car is your cue to pin it. That was a very early race start to try to get things going when you've got a big pack of cars behind you.
Yeah, that's the trick, right? When are you going to go? I think I'm pretty sure you're allowed to go as soon as the pace car goes in. So especially at Spa, that's the trick. As soon as you can plant your foot out of that corner, just go, because everybody else has to turn the corner to do the same. So I was lucky there, but I almost lost it going into after the Camel Straight, so I lost about a half a second there. I probably might have actually got out of draft with that start, but didn't work out.
Well, you fought all the way right to the end. You come up with second place, and you finish, which a lot of other drivers can't be so thankful for.
Yes, I'm very excited to watch the replay.
Dan Krasowski, P2 at the end of it all. We do have one more driver to talk to here. Martin Crisp is awaiting, and drag him in here. Martin Crisp battling with your fellow Lamborghini or Dan Krasowski at the end there. Talk us through the entirety of this race. Just a three-way battle between basically the 3 top drivers in this series right now.
Oh, I don't think I'm one of the top 3, but thank you anyway. But yeah, it was good fun to battle with a fellow Canuck. Daniel, I couldn't match him in the straightaway. I had one more wing than him, so I couldn't quite close the gap on him. But a great battle. We just kind of, all 3 of us just kind of, managed our pace until after the pit stop. And then after that, when Carl and Daniel got side by side, I thought there would be an opportunity, and it kind of was, but I didn't want to throw it in too deep, so I let it go. And then Daniel made a small mistake in one of the right-handers. It got a little loose, and I got up beside him. I thought he might let me go, because if he did, then we wouldn't have lost the draft. But, if I was in his shoes, I probably wouldn't let me go either. So yeah, we decided at that point, I guess it's a battle, and I thought I'd try a little send at the end. I didn't think I'd make that send at the end, but I had to try. Right? So as long as I'm just glad we didn't wreck. There was a bit of side door banging, but it's all good. Yeah, it was a good fun race. I really quite enjoyed that. It was a lot of fun.
I guess if it is 2 Canadian drivers, I guess I'm going to expect that it's going to be a pretty good-natured battle. There'll be some clean stuff there, but
yeah, we had some good old Canadian stories going on, I'm sure. But yeah, it was good fun.
So we're in Belgium this week. We've been talking too much about racing. We've made too many jokes at the expense of your last name. These Belgian people, they love to eat a different style of potato. They like to eat fries with mayonnaise. How do you feel about that?
I have to go watch your stream and go see what you said about me. Yeah, all my life I've had a lot of fun with my last name all my life, so I'm quite used to it. It's all good.
All the crispiest jokes in the world, but congrats on the podium tonight, bringing SimCity Racing back on the podium, and we'll see you next week at Silverstone.
Yeah, I also want to say congrats to my teammate Sean for, I think he came in 5th. So he was, I mean, we had a good team result, so congrats to Sean.
Martin Crisp, P3, great run for SimCity Racing for both of those drivers. And that rounds it out here. An absolute calamity of a night here. 104 drivers, a very good fixed race with some drama, some calamity in the sprint race, and Carl Modoff returns to Victory Lane next week. Once again, we do travel to Silverstone with both the fixed and the sprint series. same time, same place here on RaceSpotTV. We hope you'll join us then, and we hope you'll join us for all 5 nights of PRL action. It's not just the GT3 doubleheaders. On Monday night, you've got GR86s and GT4s. On Tuesday nights, you've got the GT3 doubleheader. On Wednesday nights, you've got the Truck Series and the new Xfinity Series. On Thursday nights, you've got the IRO4s and the F3. And on Sunday nights, you've got the PRL NASCAR Cup Series. So we'll hope you'll join us for any of those nights. We hope you'll join us tomorrow night for Wednesday night NASCAR racing. But until we see you next time, I've been Joey Tebben. David Haynes has been David Haynes. Hugo Luis has been our producer. So long.